Chapter 1858. Husband. Regardless of whether junior martial brother Xiao was possessed or not, his current cultivation isn't below yours or mine. Moreover, after he returned to the Imperial Thunder Sect, we didn't find anything unusual. Even if we counted from the time he left the Imperial Thunder Sect, it's been such a long time. If he had any ulterior motives, we would have fallen into his trap long ago. Now that we're safe, I still trust Xiao Hua based on my intuition. Yan Qinglian said after some consideration. Don't worry, eldest senior martial brother. Even if he wanted to possess someone, he would have found someone with a high cultivation level. He wouldn't have found an aura-refining disciple like me. Xiao Hua said again. You're wrong, Yan Qinglian said with a smile. Based on this, I believe you're still Xiao Hua. Ah, why? Xiao Hua was somewhat puzzled. Having a high cultivation level is admittedly a high starting point, but that cultivation level belongs to someone else. After possessing someone else's body, if you cultivate someone else's cultivation method, it's naturally not as suitable as your original cultivation method. Yan Qinglian said with a smile. Moreover, people with high cultivation levels have solid primordial spirits and souls, so it's not easy for them to be possessed. If you're not careful, you'll end up being devoured. It's better to possess a cultivator with a low cultivation level. As long as that cultivator's physique is excellent, sooner or later, he'll be able to cultivate back to his original cultivation level. He might even be able to surpass his previous cultivation level. Moreover, there's only one chance for possession. Who wouldn't be cautious? Xiangyang added. Right, eldest senior martial brother. What's the relationship between the primordial spirit and the soul? Possession? Is it possession of the primordial spirit or soul? Xiao Hua continued to ask. Damn! Why are you asking so many questions? I also don't know. Wait until we return to the Myriad Thunder Valley. You'll have to ask Master yourself. Xiangyang blurted out anxiously. As soon as he said that, Xiangyang laughed. Xiao Hua had a habit of asking about everything. Even if he possessed someone else's body, it wouldn't be easy for him to retain it. Yan Qinglian covered her mouth and laughed again, then said, in fact, after reaching the foundation building realm, the method of possession will be taught in jade slips. However, knowing how to possess someone and knowing how to possess someone are two different things. Even if you ask Master, I'm afraid he can only scold you and can't answer you. Oh, then it's better not to ask. Xiao Hua said honestly. But soon after he asked, oh right, if you directly take over the body of an ordinary person, wouldn't you definitely succeed? That's true. But who would want to possess a mortal? Xiangyang said with a smile. For a cultivator, ordinary people are livestock in the eyes of ordinary people. If it were you, would you? Why not? For the sake of survival, there's nothing we can't do. Xiao Hua was still as stubborn as before. Don't listen to your eldest senior brother. Yan Qinglian smiled and said, cultivators are unable to possess mortals because mortals have never cultivated before. Once they possess a body, the cultivator's primordial spirit and soul will immediately perish. Good. Xiao Hua clapped his hands and said, this is the way of the heavens. Motherfucker, I originally wanted to interrogate you. How did it become you interrogating us? Xiangyang said somewhat unhappily. Yan Qinglian spat at him and said angrily, being able to prove that Xiao Hua's body wasn't taken over. You must be very happy right now, right? I don't. Right now, I can't prove that Xiao Hua's body wasn't taken over. Xiangyang rolled his eyes at Yan Qinglian and said with a smile. Okay. Along the way, Shueshui and junior brother Xiao have been together for who knows how long. Shueshui didn't say anything. What are you suspecting for? Yan Qinglian smiled. Senior sister-in-law, you can talk to eldest senior brother. Don't pull me in Shueshui. Although Xiao Hua didn't have any ulterior motives, his face was still a little red. The three of them talked for a while. Xiangyang and Yan Qinglian had a tacit understanding and didn't ask where Xiao Hua's superhuman cultivation came from. Actually, thinking about how Gantian and Sunming both came to find Xiao Hua to seek benefits, with Xiangyang and Yan Qinglian's understanding of Xiao Hua, this fellow might have left something for himself. This cultivation was easy to say. Oh right, Xiaohua. Do you also have something to ask? Xiangyang suddenly thought. Speaking of this matter, Xiaohua's face sunk. He said in a low voice. Little brother remembers that eldest senior brother entered the middle stage of foundation establishment less than 10 years ago. How come your lifespan is almost up? Hearing Xiaohua's question, Yan Qinglian's expression became sad. She didn't reply. Xiangyang said gently, since ancient times, who doesn't die? Junior brother Xiao, you have to understand that although we cultivators can obtain a much longer lifespan than mortals through cultivation, this lifespan can't increase indefinitely. The problem is, eldest senior brother, you just broke through to the middle stage of foundation establishment. Didn't you just extend your lifespan? Xiaohua asked in confusion. Hehe, you really are that loose cultivator junior brother of mine who doesn't know anything. Xiangyang laughed bitterly. He said dotingly. My lifespan was already extended when I entered foundation establishment. It can't be extended again, just because I just entered the middle stage of foundation establishment. Little brother understands. Xiaohua slapped his forehead. So eldest senior brother's lifespan is actually the same as master and master's wife. That's right, junior brother Chui's lifespan is also the same as master's. Xiangyang nodded. This is the reason why master always wanted you to quickly enter foundation establishment. If you can enter foundation establishment a step earlier, you can have more lifespan to cultivate. Only then can you have the opportunity to step into gold core, and have the opportunity to increase your lifespan again. Eldest senior brother, the lifespan of foundation establishment seems to be 300 years, right? Gold core? It should be 600 years. Xiaohua became interested and asked in a hurry. Xiangyang looked at Xiaohua's studious appearance, and then looked at Yan Qinglian. He shook his head helplessly and said with a smile, your lifespan seems to be the definition of loose cultivators. According to what I know in the Imperial Thunder sect, it's a bit different. What's different? Xiaohua asked curiously. My Xiaoyu continent's cultivation sects divide cultivation realms into 9 layers. They are Qi refinement, foundation establishment, gold core, nascent soul, spirit severing, void refinement, unity Mahayana, and tribulation passing. Every time you cultivate a layer, your lifespan doubles. Oh, there are some changes to your nascent soul. Forget it, I'll explain it in detail. Xiangyang looked to his left and found a praying mat to sit on. After Xiaohua and Yan Qinglian also sat down, he said, among them, the lifespan of Qi refinement cultivators is generally 200 years. Foundation establishment cultivators are 400 years old. Gold core cultivators are 800 years old. As for nascent soul, because cultivators can communicate with the spiritual energy of heaven and earth through their nascent soul, their lifespan increases greatly, reaching 2,000 years old. You've read so much? Xiaohua previously heard that the lifespan of a nascent soul cultivator was 1,000 years old. Now that he heard it was actually 2,000 years old, he couldn't help but be shocked. Although the lifespan increases greatly, the difficulty of cultivation also increases correspondingly. I'll tell you later. Xiangyang was like a teacher who explained the Tao and answered very patiently. When you reach spirit severing, your lifespan increases to 4,000 years old. When you reach void refinement, unity, Mahayana, and tribulation passing, your lifespan increases to 8,000 years old, 16,000 years old, 32,000 years old, and 64,000 years old. More than 60,000 years old? Xiaohua was completely stunned. Isn't that an old tortoise? You've lived longer than an old tortoise. Yan Qinglian burst into laughter. Senior sister-in-law, you're making fun of me. Little brother has always known that nascent soul cultivators can live for 1,000 years, but I didn't expect there to be so many realms after nascent soul, and so many lifespan. Xiaohua said embarrassedly. That's right. It's precisely because there are so many lifespans that cultivators like us are attracted to cultivate diligently. Otherwise, what's the point of cultivating? Yan Qinglian nodded. Indeed. Xiaohua nodded. Eldest senior martial brother, what's the matter with the difficulty of cultivation you mentioned just now? Oh, generally speaking, we cultivators spend 40 years in the Qi refinement realm. Of course, brother. Hee, and you. I'm afraid you've already surpassed that, right? Xiang Yang said with a smile. Xiaohua thought for a moment, and didn't express his opinion. Thereupon Xiang Yang continued. I'm just joking with you, junior martial brother Xiao. Generally speaking, from the first layer of the Qi refinement realm to the 12th layer of the Qi refinement realm, it takes 40 years to complete. However, if you can't build your foundation, then you only have 200 years of lifespan. The heavens gave us 160 years to break through, which can be considered merciful. When we reach the foundation building realm, the first, middle, and last 3 realms take 30 years, 60 years, and 120 years respectively, a total of 210 years. Even if we break through to the foundation building realm at the age of 100, we still have 90 years to break through to the gold core realm. Similarly, the first 3 realms of the gold core realm take 120 years, 200 years, and 280 years respectively, a total of 600 years. At this time, the lifespan of a gold core cultivator is 800 years. If we enter the gold core realm before the age of 200, we still have hope to break through to the nascent soul realm. However, when it comes to the nascent soul realm, the first, middle, and last 3 realms take 300 years, 400 years, and 500 years respectively, a total of 1,200 years. In addition to the 600 years for the gold core realm, 210 years for the foundation building realm, and 10 years for the foundation building realm, a total of 2,050 years. That's longer than the entire lifespan of a nascent soul. Speaking up to this point, Xiang Yang was slightly stunned. He looked at Xiaohua, who was listening with great interest, and said, Junior martial brother Xiao, you aren't surprised? No, eldest senior martial brother. Nascent soul cultivators have a lifespan of 1,000 years. Junior martial brother isn't even 100 years old yet. It sounds very novel. Then what about the deity transformation realm? And the void refinement realm after the nascent soul realm? Xiaohua was really thirsty for knowledge. The later realms all have a lifespan of 1,000 years. To be honest, senior martial brother is the same as you. Just listening to this gives me a headache. The sect master of my Imperial Thunder sect is only a nascent soul cultivator. Let's wait until senior martial brother reaches the late gold core realm before we talk about it. Xiang Yang also rolled his eyes and didn't continue talking. In addition, junior martial brother Xiao, these years in lifespan are all summed up by others. Who can determine the number of heavenly Tao? Just treat it as a joke. At this time, Yan Qinglian also recognized Xiaohua as Xiaohua and said with a smile. And then, what about eldest senior martial brother? Don't you have a lifespan of 400 years? Why? Xiaohua asked. Didn't senior martial brother tell you before? When senior martial brother was guarding the 10,000 Thunder Valley alone, the sound of thunder from the 10,000 Thunder Valley damaged my Tao foundation. This lifespan is related to my Tao foundation. Although Master didn't say it clearly, senior martial brother has already faintly felt that my lifespan is approaching. Oh, Xiaohua understood. Since a breakthrough in cultivation can increase one's lifespan, then a damaged Tao foundation can naturally reduce one's lifespan. What eldest senior martial brother said is correct. Chapter 1859. Xiaohua sighed and said, what if senior brother breaks through to golden core now? Of course. Xiang Yang smiled and said, however, I've just reached foundation establishment middle stage. I'm not even in the middle of foundation establishment middle stage. I'm afraid I can't wait that long. Xiaohua originally wanted to take out Zhongyao milk, but after thinking about it, Xiang Yang was right. He couldn't reach golden core stage in a short time, so his lifespan couldn't increase. Don't think so much. Junior brother Xiao. Xiang Yang was still simple and honest. This time, I came out to travel and help you build your foundation. However, seeing that you're even stronger than foundation establishment middle stage, I can die without regrets. Senior brother. Xiaohua choked. Oh, the only regret I have is you and junior brother Cui. He's from a cultivation family, so he's a bit arrogant, but it's not a big problem. Because of you and me, he was teased a lot in Thunder Palace, so it's normal for him to dislike you. You should be more tolerant of him. Xiangyang didn't forget to remind him. Hee, look at what eldest senior brother is saying. Cui Hongshan is this little brother's senior Cui. How can this little brother tolerate him? It's better for him to tolerate this little brother. Hearing Xiangyang mention Cui Hongshan, Xiaohua sneered and said, Eldest senior brother, you don't have to worry about this matter. Sigh, alright. Ever since Xiaohua bowed and called Cui Hongshan senior in the guest pavilion, Xiangyang felt bad. Now that he heard Xiaohua didn't have a good impression of Cui Hongshan, he didn't say anything else. My cultivation is too low to enter the Hall of Elegance. Senior brother and senior sister shouldn't tell master. Xiaohua cupped his hands and said. Xiangyang glanced at Yan Qinglian, and the two exchanged glances and smiled. Junior brother Zhao's cultivation is his own matter. I and your senior sister won't say anything. Thank you, senior brother. Xiaohua cupped his hands and said. Let's go, we've finished our business. Let's leave early. Xiangyang stood up. This time we've helped Misty Mountain a lot, so we didn't let Shui down. However, this Ling Jingyi, it's better not to provoke him. That's right. Xiaohua snorted. However, he soon realized something and smiled. Don't be in such a hurry to leave. Let Shui awaken her true spirit bloodline first. That's right, that's right. Xiangyang clapped his hands, and the three of them walked out of the quiet room. At this moment, Ling Jingyi and the others were already waiting outside the quiet room. Especially Shui. Her face was deathly pale, as if she had just found out about something big. Seeing Xiaohua's concerned gaze, she forced a smile and said, Senior brother Xiao, how is your cultivation so high? This little sister would never have dreamed of it. Xiaohua has been possessed. He is not Xiaohua. Xiangyang suddenly said coldly. Possession? Shui's last bit of blood was immediately sucked away. She almost couldn't stand steadily, but immediately after, Shui firmly shook her head and said, Xiao Lang is the Xiao Lang of the past. How could he be possessed? This concubine will be the first to not believe it. Xiangyang tilted his head and looked at Yan Qinglian. Yan Qinglian also slightly nodded and quickly stepped forward. Shui, we also saw that Xiaohua's cultivation was too high. We couldn't be sure, so we asked you to confirm it. Since you said he isn't, then he definitely isn't. In an instant, Shui's deathly pale face flushed red. In front of her uncle and brother, she had blurted out Xiaohua as Xiaolang. This kind of embarrassment, even if it was a qi-refining cultivator, would be difficult to bear. Ling Jingyi was happy in his heart. He quickly stepped forward and said, Fellow Taoist Xiang, please come to the palace. I have prepared some spirit fruits and spirit wine. Please take a rest and taste it. No need, you quickly go do your business. I will wait for Shui's true spirit bloodline to awaken and immediately leave. Xiangyang waved his hand and said, Senior brother, I can't awaken my bloodline for the time being. If senior brother doesn't want to stay in Misty Mountain any longer, we will leave now. Shui said. Oh, why not? Xiaohua stared blankly and said, Didn't Pu Jianyuan directly awaken his bloodline just now? Senior brother Xiao, don't ask about this. I will tell you first in the future. Shui bit her lips and said. Xiaohua looked at Shui's expression, then looked at Ling Jingyi and Ling Feiyun. Ling Feiyun's face was full of excitement, as if he didn't know at all. Thus he nodded and said, Then let's go. Fellow Taoist Yang, fellow Taoist Yan, fellow Taoist Xiao, can you stay for another half day? Ling Jingyi was still urging them to stay. No matter what, you have helped my Misty Mountain block such a big disaster. If I don't repay you, my heart will feel uneasy. Then give it to me. Xiaohua stretched out his hand and said without any trace of politeness. Shui glanced at Xiaohua unhappily and chuckled. Ling Jingyi smiled embarrassedly and took out a storage pouch and handed it to Xiaohua. The spirit stones inside are eyes, thanks. I really don't have enough to show my respect. Well said, as long as there are spirit stones. Xiaohua also didn't hold back and put the storage pouch into his bosom. Shui, you are really going to leave like this? Don't forget, in the future you. Ling Jingyi raised his eyes and looked at Shui. The affection in his eyes couldn't be mistaken. Shui was very embarrassed. She gritted her teeth and said, Uncle, I am now a disciple of the Imperial Thunder Sect. I'm afraid it's not appropriate to stay in the misty mountain. Sister, if you leave today, I don't know when you will come back. I am now at the 10th level of qi refining. You don't like it? Ling Feiyun said sadly. Hehe, of course sister likes it. Shui walked in front of Ling Feiyun. She lovingly stroked his hair and said, You are more powerful than sister. In the future, you will definitely be able to build your foundation and condense your Dan. Hehe, it doesn't matter if I build my foundation or not, as long as I can be as powerful as senior brother Xiao. Ling Feiyun said excitedly. Xiaohua looked at Xiangyang and said with a smile, Senior brother, how about this? I just happen to have a good thing to give to senior sister. How about we stay here for a few more days? And I just happen to be tired. I will rest here for a few more days. Xiangyang was always happy to help others. Naturally, he was very tactful and said, Okay, please find a secluded place. Don't let anyone know. We will go now. Xiaohua nodded and said, Senior brother Xiao, there are 2 misty mountains. This is the front mountain, where the disciples of the misty mountain are stationed. The back mountain is a secret place. There are no disciples there. Please follow I. Speaking of the back mountain, Shue's face changed and whispered, Very good. Let's go to the back mountain. Xiaohua nodded. What made Xiaohua curious was that when they went to the back mountain, Ling Jingyi and Ling Feiyun didn't follow. Only Shui led the way. When Shui led the 3 of them to a palace in the back mountain, Xiangyang couldn't help but ask, Junior sister Shui, although this palace is not big, it is filled with spirit herbs. The spirit energy of heaven and earth is obviously much more abundant than the front mountain. Why is it a forbidden area of the Misty Mountain? Chapter 1860. Shui smiled apologetically. Senior brother, this is Misty Mountain's family matter. I am embarrassed to say more, please forgive me. Haha, it's fine, it's fine. Xiangyang flicked his sleeve and said. I asked this abruptly. The inside of the palace was very cold and cheerless, and Shui seemed to be very isolated. After finally finding a clean place, she smiled apologetically and said, Thank you for your kindness, senior brother. I indeed have some unspeakable reasons, so I want to stay in Misty Mountain for a while. Senior brother and senior sister can rest here. Xiaohua, if you have time, you can go to the front mountain. Feiyun admires you very much, and his heart is pure and kind, very different from my uncle's scheming. Can you give him a few pointers? Me? Xiaohua pointed at his nose with a bitter smile and said, I want to give him pointers, but I don't know where to start. If it's time for him to build his foundation, I can help. Although Shui didn't understand the meaning of Xiaohua's words, she didn't make things difficult for Xiaohua. Nodding, she saluted Xiangyang and Yan Qinglian, and flew back to the front mountain. After Shui left, Xiangyang frowned and said, Junior brother Xiao, Shui seems a bit strange. I don't know what Ling Jingyi said to her. Of course. When she came out of Imperial Thunder Sect, I felt something was wrong, but I can't say why. Xiaohua naturally thought of the jade slip Shui gave him and said, It's even more inappropriate in Misty Mountain, but since she didn't say, I can't ask. I'll slowly find an opportunity in the future. Fine. Everyone has their own secrets. Some things are better not known. Yan Qinglian nodded and said. Xiaohua agreed, then looked at Yan Qinglian and Xiangyang, pondered for a moment and said, Senior brother, from what you said, your lifespan is almost up. Even if your cultivation improves, you can't break through to golden core, so I won't give you this opportunity. Opportunity? Xiangyang was surprised and said, Is what you said just now true? Of course. Xiaohua waved his hand and said, Senior brother and senior sister treat me like brothers. How can I not think of them when I have some opportunities? Yan Qinglian smiled and said, I can't use the mother-child spirit fruit. Senior-in-law, don't worry. You will definitely be able to use this. Xiaohua said with a smile. However, I still have to ask senior sister-in-law to make a heart oath. You can't mention this matter to anyone. Not to mention eldest senior brother. You can't even tell master and master's wife. This. Yan Qinglian looked at Xiangyang. Xiangyang's eyes turned a few times before he smiled and said, This brother is really tired. I'll go and rest for a while. Qinglian, you give Xiaohua some pointers on his cultivation. After saying that, Xiangyang walked away. After Xiangyang left, Xiaohua took out a jade slip and immersed his divine sense into it. He erased some parts of the jade slip and passed it to Yan Qinglian. Senior sister-in-law, this is the cultivation technique's mnemonic chant. Please take a look. 3 days later, little brother will come over. All right. Yan Qinglian took the jade slip with some hesitation. If it was before she came out of the Imperial Thunder sect to cultivate, she definitely wouldn't have hesitated to make a heart oath. But now, Xiaohua actually revealed an astonishing strength. This was completely different from the little junior brother she wanted to protect. She couldn't help but feel suspicious. Even though she could confirm that the possibility of Xiaohua being possessed was too small, she still didn't dare to fully believe it. Seeing this, Xiaohua didn't urge her and turned to leave. Wait a moment. Yan Qinglian immersed her divine sense into the jade slip and looked at it for a moment. She smiled and said, I was worried too much. It's fine, senior sister-in-law. Little brother had no choice but to do this. Xiaohua smiled bitterly. Immediately, Yan Qinglian made a heart oath in front of Xiaohua. Seeing Yan Qinglian meditating on the jade slip, Xiaohua walked out and saw Xiangyang sitting not far from the quiet room. He also walked over and sat cross-legged not far from him. He took out the jade slip that Ling Jingyi gave him and carefully looked at the things inside. Xiangyang knew that Xiaohua was sitting next to him, but he didn't say anything and just focused on cultivating. Xiaohua raised his eyes to look at the silent eldest senior brother, and there was a strange feeling in his heart. He secretly regretted revealing his strength, but he was also clear in his heart that this strange feeling was only on the surface. After a few days, it would absolutely not exist. 3 days passed quickly. Xiaohua entered the quiet room and put away the jade slip. He asked, Senior sister-in-law, are you familiar with the cultivation method inside? Hee, I'm already familiar with it. I also saw this kind of incantation when I was young. Although I haven't practiced it, it's nothing to a foundation establishment middle-stage cultivator like me. Yan Qinglian still didn't know what Xiaohua was selling. Senior sister-in-law, please seal your 5 senses and don't let your divine sense out. Little brother will give you a great opportunity, Xiaohua said in all seriousness. Okay. Yan Qinglian looked at the jade slip and was already very relieved. She sealed her 5 senses and withdrew her divine sense into her Naiwan palace. After a while, Yan Qinglian felt a bit of coolness on her arm. Her heart moved. Naturally, she knew that this was what Xiaohua wanted to give her. Without thinking, she followed the cultivation method in the jade slip and refined this coolness into her body bit by bit. Your senior sister-in-law has started cultivating? Xiangyang looked at Xiaohua and asked softly. Senior brother knows it's exactly like that. Xiaohua knew that the trustworthy Xiangyang definitely wouldn't release his divine sense. He said very seriously, let's wait and see senior sister-in-law's cultivation progress. Little brother also doesn't know when I can come out of seclusion. Oh, Xiangyang didn't comment. Xiaohua smiled and said, however, little brother can guarantee that even if senior brother comes out of Misty Mountain and directly returns to the mountain, master will definitely not scold you. Bah. Xiangyang spat and said, do you think master is willing to scold people? Immediately, Xiangyang sighed again. Alas, junior brother Xiao, with your magical abilities now, I'm afraid you're only slightly inferior to me. You can be called the #1 expert under foundation establishment, but why can't you build your foundation? Moreover, that day when you fought with Yan Xiefeng, why did you keep hiding your strength? You only need to reveal a little bit, and at least, master won't scold you anymore, right? Are you sure master won't scold me again? Xiaohua asked thoughtfully. This. Xiangyang hesitated. At least, junior brother Cui won't treat you like that, right? Ha ha ha, it's good that senior brother knows. If little brother doesn't build his foundation, master won't stop scolding me. Now it seems that even if little brother builds his foundation, this scolding won't stop. Xiaohua laughed loudly, his gaze somewhat fierce. As for Cui Hongshan, he's little brother's senior. Why would little brother care how he treats little brother? Xiangyang suddenly woke up and said anxiously, Junior brother Xiao, no matter what, junior brother Cui is still part of my myriad Thunder Valley, and he's also your little junior brother. You wouldn't. Thinking about how Xiaohua treated Pu Jianyuan before, Xiangyang shuddered. He senior brother worries too much. With little brother's cultivation, I only need to stretch out my hand to pinch him to death. He's just like a loathsome fly. He thinks he's good, but he doesn't know that in little brother's eyes, he's just a joke. If he doesn't have any evil intentions towards little brother won't pay attention to him. Alas. Xiangyang finally understood why Xiaohua refused to call Cui Hongshan senior brother. Cui Hongshan's magical abilities could directly pinch you to death, yet you still arrogantly asked him to call you senior brother. Wasn't this just courting death? Xiaohua didn't lower himself to his level at the beginning, which was already pretty good, but in the end, he actually forced Xiaohua to call him senior. The two words senior were admittedly easy to say, but was it easy for Cui Hongshan to accept? But then Xiangyang thought again. His lifespan was already not far away. In the future of Myriad Thunder Valley, it was obvious that junior brother Xiao and junior brother Cui would be in charge. Looking at Xiaohua's cultivation and prospects, even Master Wu couldn't compare to him. What about Cui Hongshan's situation in Myriad Thunder Valley? For a moment, Xiangyang was somewhat worried. At this time, a crimson summoning talisman flew in front of Xiaohua. Xiaohua was slightly surprised, then smiled at Xiangyang and said, It seems that something happened to Shui again. Senior brother, I'll go take a look. You stay here and protect senior sister. And you go? Xiangyang frowned, as if he didn't think about his own lifespan. Instead, he was worried about Cui Hongshan, thinking about how to resolve the conflict between the two in the future. But when Xiaohua crushed the summoning talisman, it was an unfamiliar young voice. Xiao. Senior brother Xiao? Are you free right now? Can you come to the front mountain? Junior brother really admires you. Oh, junior brother is Ling Feiyun. Haha. Hearing this voice, Ling Feiyun's appearance appeared in Xiaohua's mind. Seeing Shue's love for him, he knew that the two of them had a very good relationship. How could Xiaohua ignore Ling Feiyun's request? Soon after, Xiaohua came out of the palace and flew to the front mountain. In the air, he met Ling Feiyun. From afar, Ling Feiyun bowed and greeted him, calling him senior brother. Haha. Seeing Ling Feiyun's excited appearance, Xiaohua was also happy. He rarely showed his strength in front of others, so this was the first time he saw such a respectful expression. When he helped Ling Feiyun up, he smiled and said, Junior brother Ling, what's the matter? I won't hide it from senior brother Xiao. That day, when junior brother was being trampled on, my heart was filled with endless regret. Why didn't I have a high cultivation? Although I wanted to kill the enemy at that time, I didn't have the strength to fight back. Just as I was about to be killed, senior brother Xiao suddenly appeared in my misty mountain. Junior brother really doesn't know how to express my gratitude. Junior brother only wants to have senior brother Xiao's cultivation one day, to be able to easily kill foundation establishment cultivators with just a peak qi refining cultivation. Ling Feiyun spoke incoherently. The more he spoke, the more excited he became. Actually, junior brother came to ask senior brother Xiao in private because I want to know. Senior brother Xiao's cultivation. Is there any shortcut or trick that allows you to have such a high cultivation with such a low cultivation? Looking at the eagerness in Ling Feiyun's eyes, what was the difference between him and when he was a rogue cultivator? Xiaohua's face unconsciously revealed a trace of a smile. However, after thinking for a moment, Xiaohua let Ling Feiyun down and said, I's cultivation path. I'm afraid it's not suitable for you. Chapter 1861. Seeing Ling Feiyun's disappointment, Xiaohua said with a smile, The goal of cultivation is the same, but the path is different. If there is only one path, then I will walk in front of you. Wouldn't I be blocking your path? Since you've stepped on the path of cultivation, you're walking on your own path. What others say is just a reference. If you only listen to what others say and don't walk your own path steadily, then you'll always be on the wrong path. Ling Feiyun's face was confused. He thought Xiaohua would have some profound chant, or even a secret manual. He didn't expect it to be this. He was born in a cultivation family. Since birth, the Ling family gave him all kinds of spiritual herbs and various medicinal pills. All the cultivation methods and chants were provided step by step. How could he know such a profound truth? Thank you, senior brother Xiao. Ling Feiyun had no choice but to bow and express his gratitude. However, his eyes clearly showed that he was not satisfied. Idiot! A light rebuke came from the distance. Xiao Hua raised his head and saw the Ling family's head, Ling Jingyi, at the foot of the mountain. Without waiting for him to come closer, Ling Jingyi said, Feiyun, although fellow Taoist Xiao didn't say any secret cultivation method, what he said was the chance for your cultivation. If you can't comprehend these words, then you can only reach foundation establishment. You definitely won't be able to step into gold core. If you can comprehend these words, then gold core won't be a problem. Then he turned to Xiao Hua and cupped his hands. I didn't expect fellow Taoist Xiao to be able to comprehend such a truth at such a young age. This old man really admires you. This truth is something this old man understood in recent years when he was pondering why our cultivation family couldn't compete with cultivation sections. Moreover, it was very vague. Today, after listening to fellow Taoist Zhao's words, it was as if I was suddenly enlightened. Alas, no wonder fellow Taoist Xiao has such a cultivation. I admire you. Ling Jingyi's 2 words of admiration made Xiao Hua blush with shame. Just a few words, he also felt it. How could it be as profound as Ling Jingyi said when he only combined it with his own cultivation? However, when he thought about it carefully, wasn't it because the cultivation family lost their core because they relied on cultivation sects? Xiao Hua's words also hit the nail on the head. Thank you for your pointers, father. Thank you for your pointers, senior brother Xiao. Ling Feiyun hurriedly said, but after saying this he immediately became timid. He called Ling Jingyi father, and called Xiao Hua senior brother. All of a sudden, Xiao Hua was 1 generation lower. Fellow Taoist Xiao, I came here for a matter. Ling Jingyi hurriedly explained. What's the matter? Xiao Hua didn't have a good impression of Ling Jingyi and frowned. Today is the day that my Misty Mountain uses a magic tool to help the disciples awaken their bloodline. I wonder if fellow Taoist Xiao can be at the side. Ling Jingyi smiled apologetically. Xiao Hua waved his hand and said, This is your Misty Mountain's matter, I won't get involved. I won't hide it from fellow Taoist Xiao. Ling Jingyi smiled apologetically. Ever since fellow Taoists gave those 2 magic tools to I have been pondering over them for the past few days. But, no matter how he tried to control it, he was unable to achieve the effect of activating his true spirit bloodline. I thought about it. I'm afraid that the magic tool's effect was triggered because a fellow Taoist fought with Pu Jianyuan that day, right? That's why I shamelessly came to ask fellow Taoist for help. Xiao Hua still shook his head. This has nothing to do with I. You can just find someone else to be your opponent. I am very busy. Finished speaking, Xiao Hua turned around and left. Fellow Taoist Xiao. Ling Jingyi stepped forward and pulled Xiao Hua's sleeve. He smiled apologetically and said, Fellow Taoist, please wait for a moment. It's not that I don't want to look for someone, but the secret of activating one's true spirit bloodline isn't something that can be casually revealed. I can't possibly find a foundation establishment cultivator on Donrain continent who can make I feel at ease. I'm afraid there's only fellow Taoist Xiao. Sigh, fellow Taoist Xiao. I hope you can help my Misty Mountain once for Xue Xue's sake. Senior brother Xiao, please help my father. Ling Feiyun bowed and saluted like Ling Jingyi. Sigh, forget it. Xiao Hua was the most kind-hearted. Thinking about it, it was just a matter of lifting a hand. He could only wave his sleeve and said, just this once. Many thanks, fellow Taoist, many thanks. Ling Jingyi was wild with joy. He turned his head and said to Ling Feiyun, Feiyun, quickly go to the ancestral hall and prepare. Yes, father. Ling Feiyun was also happy. He quickly flew to the front mountain. After Ling Feiyun left, Ling Jingyi clapped his hands and took out something similar to the bead that Qian Yuming gave Xiao Hua. He smiled apologetically and said, Fellow Taoist Xiao, I have been searching for ancient records in the ancestral hall for a method to activate one's bloodline. It was precisely this thing that I found. I know that fellow Taoist likes it, So I brought it to fellow Taoist. Xiaohua took it and looked at it. He smiled and said, I also don't like it. It's just that I don't understand it. I feel that it's a bit strange. Oh, this thing is mentioned in my Ling clan's records. It seems to be something like Kali of the Buddhist sect. Ling Jingyi immediately explained. However, as for what it does specifically, I don't know. Saraira? Xiaohua was startled. Yes, it's a Saraira. Ling Jingyi said as if he had just realized something. Since it's something from the Buddhist sect, what use does my Tao sect have for it? You should take it back. Xiaohua said as he wanted to return the Saraira to Ling Jingyi. How could Ling Jingyi take it back? He quickly waved his hand and said, Fellow Taoist Xiao, I don't even know what the Buddhist sect is, let alone what a Saraira is. This thing is just sitting in my Ling clan. I'd better ask fellow Taoist to accept it. Moreover, if fellow Taoist doesn't accept it, I would be embarrassed to ask fellow Taoist to make a move, right? Xiaohua thought for a moment. He tossed the Saraira in his hand a few times, as if he didn't care about it at all. He nodded and said, Fine, I will accept it. Then he casually stuffed it into his bosom. Good fellow Taoist, please. Ling Jingyi beamed with joy. And fellow Taoist, please come forward. Xiaohua said calmly. The two of them turned around the foot of the mountain. On top of the extremely tall mountain peak, there were some buildings. It should be the Ling clan's ancestral hall. Xiaohua said with a smile. That's right, fellow Taoist Ling. Previously, fellow Taoist said that Shadow Moon and Glorious Sun magic tool, Shui also has a use for them. However, these few days, I have looked at the jade pendant. It's all about the sacrificial refining method. There's nothing strange about it. What is fellow Taoist Xiao talking about it? This is Shui's matter. I have already made a heart oath to not reveal it. Ling Jingyi had obviously expected this. He quickly replied, Shui is with fellow Taoist Xiao. I am very relieved. Fellow Taoists can ask Shui about these matters. I believe Shui will definitely tell you. Of course. Xiaohua said embarrassedly. Fellow Taoist, please. This is my Ling clan's ancestral hall. Ling Jingyi pointed with his finger. It was precisely the several pavilions on the mountain peak. When Xiaohua looked over, those pavilions gradually transformed, revealing a rather large cave. Chapter 1862. When Xiaohua followed Ling Jingyi into the cave, Xiaohua discovered that this cave was actually several times bigger than the one facing the sun in the Myriad Thunder Valley. The decorations inside were also dazzling and abnormally rich. How was this the ancestral hall of Shang Huoming in his imagination? Fellow Taoist Xiao, please sit. Ling Jingyi invited Xiaohua to sit down and personally took out spirit fruits and other things. He smiled apologetically and said, I will go see if my son is ready. When Ling Jingyi entered the cave, Xiaohua looked around and released his divine sense. He found that the cave's walls were full of restrictions, and his divine sense couldn't penetrate them. Moreover, these restrictions were quite mysterious, and there were more restrictions than the ones in Helplessness Cave. After eating a refreshing spirit fruit, Xiaohua muttered to himself, This fog mountain seems to be different from ordinary cultivation families. At least, it's much stronger than the Kai family of Luyang. It's almost the same as a cultivation sect. Unfortunately, there are no disciples in the sect, only the descendants of the Ling family. If they had spirit stones and medicinal pills, they could really become a small sect. And no wonder Pu Jianyuan had evil intentions. If he swallowed this fog mountain, his flying phoenix ridge's strength would definitely increase greatly. Unfortunately, he actually met me. It's also his bad luck that he gave his foundation to the fog mountain. That's right, the flying phoenix ridge is Ling Jingyi's and he only gave me so few spirit stones. Isn't this too much of a loss for me? Just as he was thinking, Ling Feiyin respectfully followed Ling Jingyi out of the cave. Xiaohua's greedy expression immediately changed to one of righteousness. He smiled and said, Fellow Taoist Ling, are you ready? Yes, behind this ancestral hall is a practice field. It's used by my Ling family's disciples to compare notes on cultivation. All kinds of spells and divine abilities can be used there. Fellow Taoist Xiao, please go there. Ling Jingyi said with a smile. Of course. Xiaohua followed the two into the cave and walked through several spacious passages. They were all inlaid with bright flower stones, shining brightly and dazzling. When they arrived in front of a small moon-shaped door as tall as a person, Ling Jingyi stopped, clapped his hands, and took out the simple jade pendant. Under the urging of his magic power, a red light similar to a communication talisman rushed into the small door. Bubbles appeared inside the small door like boiling water bubbles. After a cup of tea's time, all the bubbles became one complete bubble. Fellow Taoist Xiao, please. Ling Jingyi kept the jade pendant and stepped into the bubble. It was as if the bubble didn't exist, and Ling Jingyi continued to enter. Senior brother Xiao, please. Ling Feiyun respectfully asked Xiaohua to go first. Xiaohua nodded and also passed through the bubble. In his divine sense, the bubble was still a bubble, but there was a faint fluctuation of spiritual power. After passing through the bubble, Xiaohua saw a light red platform in front of him. It was about 100 feet in size. Ling Jingyi was standing in front of it. When he saw Xiaohua come over, he explained, "The restriction on this platform was set up by our ancestors. Every 10 years, the Ling family's patriarch has to use a spell passed down by our ancestors to send spirit stones into it. According to the family's ancient records, this restriction can block the divine abilities of cultivators below the gold core stage. Fellow Taoist Xiao, you can use it as you wish." Okay. Xiaohua nodded and clapped his hands. Yi Yang Fan appeared in his hand, and he recalled the day when he killed Pu Jianyuan. "Feiyun, this is Bright Sun and Shadow Moon. Take out the yellow talisman father gave you before, and recall the spell I taught you. Use this bright sun to attack fellow Taoist Xiao with all your strength. Don't worry, fellow Taoist Xiao knows what to do," Ling Jingyi said and handed the two combined magic tools to Ling Feiyun. "Ah, father, how can you let the boy control the magic tools?" Ling Feiyun was obviously stunned and quickly waved his hand. "Father, control is better, you have a better chance." Ling Jingyi's face became serious and he scolded. "Why aren't you moving? It's not that easy to ask fellow Taoist Xiao to make a move. Don't waste his time." "Father." Ling Feiyun's face was red, but he still didn't want to. He insisted. "Boy is only at the 10th layer of the qi refining stage. It's not enough to control the magic tools. Even if you use the ancestral yellow talisman, I'm afraid it can't show the power of the magic tools. It also can't awaken the boy's bloodline. Didn't Pu Jianyuan awaken his bloodline that day? He's at the early stage of the foundation establishment stage. Father is already at the foundation establishment stage. You're still at the qi refining stage. If fellow Taoist Xiao makes a move, he should have a chance. Even if father gets this chance, it's useless. If your bloodline awakens, it's very possible you can attack the foundation establishment stage." Ling Jingyi's face became cold. "Don't tell me you didn't listen to father." Ling Feiyun was helpless. He was about to reach out and take the magic tools, but his hand stopped halfway. He clenched his teeth and said, "Boy has listened to father for dozens of years. Today, I'll let the boy be presumptuous." "Presumptuous?" Ling Jingyi scolded. "You're already at the 10th layer of the qi refining stage. You still don't understand the big picture?" "Father." Cough cough, Xiaohua coughed twice. "Fellow Taoist Xiao, I'll be done soon. Please wait a moment." Ling Jingyi said hurriedly. I promised to make a move, but I only said it a few times." Xiaohua touched his nose and said with interest. He didn't know whether Ling Jingyi was putting on a show for him or not, but Ling Feiyun's expression made him decide that for this father and son relationship, he should make a move one more time. "Ah!" Ling Jingyi was startled at first, then became overjoyed. He smiled and said, "Thank you fellow Taoist Xiao. I've really wasted fellow Taoist Fa Li. Hee, the Flying Phoenix mountain range needs a lot of pills. Using a bit of Fa Li isn't a big deal," Xiaohua said with a smile. Hee, I understand," Ling Jingyi replied with a smile. "Fine, you think I'm greedy? If Shueshue finds out, I won't have any face left," Xiaohua hurriedly said. "Wait a moment, let I take a look at your Ling clan's ancient books." Of course. Ling Jingyi smiled from ear to ear. This was practically not a condition. "Fellow Taoist Ling, be careful. Xiaohua restrained his smile and urged the Fa Li in his body to fan the sun leaf fan. After receiving Xiaohua's Fa Li, the sun leaf fan immediately surged with a crimson brilliance. It was as if a layer of flames had ignited around it. The spiritual qi of heaven and earth near the platform was all sucked into the sun leaf fan. Go! Xiaohua shouted loudly. The flames on the sun leaf fan immediately left its body and condensed into the shape of a fire dragon, rolling towards Ling Jingyi. Of course, Ling Jingyi had already seen the might of the sun leaf fan, but that was after all a bystander. Only now did he truly face the fire dragon of the sun leaf fan. Did he understand how Pu Jianyuan felt at that time? What kind of heat was this, and what kind of Fa Li was this? Even an early-stage foundation establishment cultivator like him couldn't compare to it. If he didn't personally experience it, how could he believe that a peak-stage qi refining cultivator could have such a powerful divine ability? Rise! Ling Jingyi didn't dare to be negligent. Under the urging of his Fa Li, he also poured it into the sun leaf fan. The sun leaf fan could only see the sun leaf fan blossom with a circle of brilliance, driving the surrounding moon shadow. From the moon shadow, a crescent of light gradually emerged. Shua shua! The crescent of light left the magic tool and directly attacked Xiaohua. However, the fire dragon of the sun leaf fan rushed forward and immediately wrapped around the light shadow. In a moment, the light shadow scattered and turned into a shadow, gradually disappearing. The fire dragon didn't lose its momentum. Just like last time, it surrounded the fake sun leaf fan and the moon shadow. Fellow Taoist Xiao, be careful. Seeing that the blood in his body didn't have any reaction, Ling Jingyi shouted loudly. He slapped his forehead and released the pressure of an early-stage foundation establishment cultivator, pressing down on Xiaohua. Hee, don't worry. Xiaohua let out a long cry. His body shook and the phoenix Dharma body rushed out of his body. Following Xiaohua's long cry, there was also a clear cry. The scarlet wings spread out, and the phoenix Dharma body that was more than 200 feet in size appeared above Xiaohua's head. Go! Xiaohua shouted. The phoenix Dharma body soared into the sky and flew forward to meet Ling Jingyi's pressure. With a claw, a cold light flashed and directly grabbed at Ling Jingyi's face. Ouch! Ling Jingyi was shocked. He knew that his body's defense wasn't enough to deal with the phoenix Dharma body. Just as he was about to take out his magic tool, suddenly, an incomparably powerful suction force came from the bright sun magic tool, sucking away most of the magic power in Ling Jingyi's body. Then the magic tool emitted a strange fluctuation. This fluctuation rushed towards the phoenix Dharma body and directly covered Ling Jingyi's body. Just like last time, as soon as the fluctuation entered Ling Jingyi's blood, his blood began to surge like boiling water. Xiaohua was very sensitive to this strange fluctuation. He waved his claw disdainfully and blocked the weak fluctuation. The phoenix Dharma body flew back to Xiaohua's head and stopped again with a clear cry. Looking at Ling Jingyi again, his originally fat body suddenly swelled up like a balloon. When his Taoist robe was pushed up, a short and fat shadow of a fire ape slowly stood up from his body. Roar! Although the fire ape Dharma body was short and fat, it still looked weak. It stretched lazily and looked around a few times. Its respectful gaze fell on Xiaohua's phoenix Dharma body. Great! Ling Jingyi's face lit up with joy. He withdrew his pressure and sat down cross-legged, as if he was channeling his magic power to focus on the Dharma body. After waiting for a while, the fire ape Dharma body became a little stronger. Ling Jingyi shook his body and withdrew the Dharma body. He bowed and said, "Fellow Taoist Xiao, thank you." "You're welcome." Xiaohua smiled and withdrew the phoenix Dharma body. He looked at Ling Feiyun again and said, "How is it? Junior brother Ling, do you want to awaken your bloodline today?" No hurry, no hurry. Fellow Taoist Xiao used up a lot of magic power today. Let's rest for a few days first. Ling Jingyi hurriedly said with a smile. But when Ling Feiyun heard this, disappointment appeared in his eyes. "It's okay. I didn't use up anything. Strike while the iron is hot," Xiaohua said indifferently. Ling Jingyi was secretly shocked. He thought for a while and shook his head. "Thank you, fellow Taoist Xiao, but I want to try it myself." Chapter 1863. Although Ling Jingyi wanted to rely on his own strength to use the Shining Sun and Shadow Moon artifacts, in reality, he didn't know if it was because his magic power was limited, or because his recently awakened true spirit bloodline wasn't powerful enough. In short, after Ling Feiyun exhausted his magic power to use the artifacts, Ling Feiyun's true spirit bloodline showed no signs of being activated. Thus, Ling Jingyi could only helplessly ask Xiaohua to help. He didn't want to lose the opportunity to awaken his only son's bloodline. After Xiaohua used the Phoenix Dharma body, Ling Feiyun's true spirit bloodline was easily activated. And Xiaohua also understood. Although the luminous sun and shadow moon instruments had the effect of affecting the true spirit bloodline of the Mist Mountain, but there must also be other true spirit bloodline Dharmakayas present in order for it to work. In the past, there would definitely be Ling family's Dharmakayas activating the Dharmakayas, but now there was no one in the Ling family with Dharmakayas, and Ling Jingyi's Dharmakayas were also weak, so naturally he couldn't coordinate with the two instruments. Haha, Xiaohua clapped his hands and laughed. He also knew that in the future, the Ling family bloodline of Misty Mountain will definitely be activated and revived by Ling Jingyi. Ling Feiyun's cultivation is at the 10th level of qi refining. His true spirit bloodline was forcefully activated. For a moment, his body simply couldn't adapt. Only an indistinct shadow appeared on his back. Ling Feiyun took a pill and forced himself to sit cross-legged. His face was deathly pale. Ling Jingyi's eyes were filled with joy, but his face was naturally filled with love. Xiaohua smiled and said, "Fellow Taoist Ling, this matter is over. It's time for you to fulfill your promise." "Yes. Fellow Taoist Xiao, please wait a moment." Ling Jingyi looked away from Ling Feiyun's face and brought Xiaohua out of the platform. Then, they entered the cave and passed through several restrictions before arriving at a library. "Fellow Taoist Xiao, this is the place where my Misty Mountain's genealogy, ancient books, and techniques are recorded. The ancient books are on the 2nd floor of the library. This is the certificate to enter the library. You can go from the 1st to the 4th floor. After you finish reading, you can come out by yourself. This certificate allows you to leave but not enter. When fellow Taoist Xiao comes again, you can send a message to I won't accompany fellow Taoist." As he spoke, he handed a jade pendant to Xiaohua. Seeing Ling Jingyi hand over the jade pendant so confidently, Xiaohua was somewhat surprised. He smiled strangely and said, "This is the core of your Ling family. Aren't you afraid that I will do something to it?" "Hee, I am indeed a little worried. However, there are some fellow cultivators whom I can trust with my life even though I have only met them a few times. There are some fellow cultivators whom I am very close to, but I cannot trust them even once. Fellow Taoist Xiao is a disciple of the Imperial Thunder Sect, and a good friend of Xue Xue. How can I not believe him? Fellow Taoist, feel free to copy the things in the ancient books. You can take a look at the cultivation arts and the like yourself. Ah, fellow Taoist Ling, why would I want to see your Ling clan's techniques? Don't worry." Xiaohua understood the meaning behind Ling Jingyi's words. He grabbed the jade pendant and stepped into the library with a smile. Seeing that Xiaohua was actually so free and easy, not even saying superfluous words, Ling Jingyi couldn't help but be surprised. He was used to being polite to others, so he gradually wore a mask on his face. He had to be on guard and think carefully about everything. Just now he agreed to Xiaohua's conditions without hesitation. However, later on he remembered that the library didn't have any special restrictions. If he could see the ancient books, he could also see the cultivation arts. He obviously couldn't accompany him, so he pretended to be generous. However, he still had some misgivings in his heart. According to his thoughts, Xiaohua would definitely let him accompany him to get the ancient books in order to avoid suspicion. Or perhaps he would let him take out the ancient books. Who would have thought? Xiaohua actually went in so openly. He couldn't have leaked our Ling family's cultivation method, right? This was Ling Jingyi's first thought, but immediately after, the image of Xiaohua's skinny back and smiling face appeared in his mind. At the same time, the matter of Qian Yuming not needing to make a heart oath after handing over the Saraira also occurred to him. If he wanted the Ling family's cultivation method, I'm afraid he wouldn't have to be so despicable, right? Immediately, Ling Jingyi felt relieved and turned around. After all, the awakening of Ling Feiyun's bloodline, and the awakening of the other Ling clan disciples' bloodlines was his main concern. In a flash, 20 days had passed. Xiaohua wasn't flipping through the ancient books in the Ling clan's ancestral hall, observing Yan Qinglian's progress in refining the Zhongyao elixir in the back of the mountain, or sitting next to Xiangyang. In these 20 days, Xiangyang didn't say a word and didn't even look at Xiaohua. His face was calm. Shueshui also knew about Ling Feiyun's bloodline and specially came over. However, she only said 2 words of thanks and didn't say much. Of course, Shueshui's complexion was a lot better than before. On this day, Xiaohua was flipping through the ancient books. It was also a silk booklet. The content inside wasn't too much, but when Xiaohua saw the contents, he couldn't help but be surprised. This seems to be a record of talismans. It's actually similar to your Zhu clans. When Xiaohua saw the Zhu clan, his cultivation was still shallow and his knowledge was shallow. He only felt that the Zhu clan's records were too unimaginable. It was too different from the methods of the current cultivation world. Now dozens of years had passed. Not to mention the Taoist sect's divine abilities, Xiaohua had also seen the Buddhist sect and soul cultivators. He knew that there were too many cultivators in this world. It was as Qian Diheng said, 3,000 great Daos. Talismans should be one of them. Of course, the talismans had already faded in Xiaohua's mind. Xiaohua also hadn't read the Zhu clan's booklet for a long time. Today, seeing the Ling clan's booklet made Xiaohua ponder. The Zhu clan suffered from the pain of the talisman. It would be passed down from generation to generation. Every generation's women would suffer. The true spirit blood in the bloodline seems to be similar to the talisman. But obviously, the inheritance of the true spirit blood is in the bloodline. After the inheritance, it would still be faint. But how could the talisman pass down the inheritance? What's so special about the Wu Tsang pill that I refined? It can actually dissolve the talisman? Then will it dissolve the true spirit blood as well? Harboring doubts, Xiaohua read the booklet that recorded the talisman over and over again. He even carefully compared it with the Zhu clan's booklet. In the end, Xiaohua found something strange. Although the booklet didn't say it explicitly or even implicitly, Xiaohua felt that what was recorded in the booklet was a kind of resentment, a kind of bone-deep resentment. It faintly resembled the cultivation of the Taoist sect. It was a complaint against the Taoist sect. Could it be that the talisman is the Taoist sect's method to deal with the Buddhist sect? Xiaohua naturally thought of the vanished Buddhist sect. Don't worry about the ancients. After Xiaohua finished thinking, he put down the booklet and looked at other ancient books. Just as he was about to finish reading, he saw a record of the Buddhist sect's Sarira in another ancient book. Of course, this record was very simple. It only said that this object was a Sarira, and that it was obtained by a certain Ling family head. It was unknown what it was used for, but it was in the ancestral hall. Chapter 1864. Forget it. Xiaohua sighed. Since it belongs to the Buddhist sect, I naturally have to go to the Buddhist sect's ruins. If I have the power to protect myself, why can't I go to the Buddhist sect's ruins? Xiaohua had already decided not to go to the Buddhist sect's ruins. Now that he had killed Foundation Establishment late-stage and early-stage Foundation Establishment cultivators, he had a good understanding of his own strength and obtained 2 Sariras. He couldn't help but secretly want to explore the Buddhist sect's ruins. After another 10 days, Xiaohua had finished reading all of the Ling clan's ancient books and had some understanding of the Xiaoyu continent and the cultivation world. Only then did he return the jade pendant to Ling Jingyi and leisurely left the Ling clan's ancestral hall. Ling Jingyi received the jade pendant and hurriedly left without saying a word. Obviously, there were many important matters to attend to in the clan. Xiaohua didn't ask, but his heart was clear. Pu Jianyuan died in the Misty Mountain and left all of his tokens to Ling Jingyi. If Ling Jingyi didn't take over the Flying Phoenix Ridge now, then when? Especially since Ling Jingyi had the Fire Ape Dharma body. His bloodline was connected to the Flying Phoenix Ridge. Presumably, the disciples of the Flying Phoenix Ridge wouldn't reject him too much. In the quiet room, Yan Qinglian's body tempering had come to an end. Of course, it wasn't so easy to completely absorb the Zhongyao milk. All Yan Qinglian could do was to simply absorb the zhongyao milk and spread it throughout every strand of her body. The only way to truly temper the zhongyao milk completely was to rely on the lightning escape technique. This was the key to the thunder escape technique's advancement by relying on the zhongyao milk. As for the zhongyao milk, it could help Qian Diheng, Sun Shu, and the others to break through to the next level, because their bodies had been refined by the zhongyao milk, which allowed them to better sense natural powers and make breakthroughs easier. In the end, Shui also came and sat next to Xiangyang like Xiaohua. Because Xiangyang was next to him, Xiaohua didn't cultivate and chatted with Shui. For some reason, Xiaohua asked about Shui's parents and Ling Feiyun's mother. Shui's face paled and her eyes reddened. She hesitated for a moment and said, "My parents died early. I don't have any recollection. It was uncle who brought me up. Feiyun's mother also passed away when I was 10 years old." After saying so much, Shui wasn't willing to say anything more. Xiaohua understood and hurriedly changed the topic. Just as he was about to make Shui happy, a sharp whistle came from inside the listening room. Yan Qinglian broke out of seclusion. When Yan Qinglian flew in front of Xiangyang, Xiangyang was actually stunned. What do you think? Originally, Yan Qinglian looked like she was in her 60s. Her hair was white and she looked a little old. At this moment, Yan Qinglian's face was delicate and her previous wrinkles were gone. The most obvious change was her hair. It was completely black. You. Xiangyang pointed his finger at Yan Qinglian. He was both delighted and shocked. He didn't know what to say. What's wrong with this concubine? Yan Qinglian naturally didn't know about the changes in her body and asked curiously. Senior sister-in-law. Take a look. Xiaohua had seen Yan Qinglian when he entered the quiet room, so he naturally knew what was going on. With a wave of his hand, a foot-sized round mirror appeared in midair. Ah? Seeing the face in the mirror that was 10 years younger, Yan Qinglian was pleasantly surprised. She almost couldn't believe it and touched her face with her fingers. Senior brother, are you satisfied? Xiaohua said with a smile. Little brother couldn't have been possessed, right? Xiangyang smiled and looked at Yan Qinglian lovingly, ignoring Xiaohua. Many thanks for junior brother Zhao's help. Yan Qinglian woke up and bowed. All female cultivators valued their appearance. Yan Qinglian's cultivation wasn't as high as Zhuo Minghui's, so she couldn't maintain her appearance. She never thought that she could become younger. Now that she suddenly became youthful, she was pleasantly surprised. Look, senior sister-in-law, the one in front of you is your cute junior brother. Don't be so polite. Xiaohua was also happy. To be able to do something for his senior sister-in-law who loved him dearly, he had to pay a price. And, don't be polite with him, Xiangyang said with a smile. He sat beside me for so many days and didn't even say a word to me. He just wanted to see my surprise. Now that he's seen it, we're even. Senior brother, Xiaohua said with a bit of exaggeration. This is even? If we're not even, then what? Xiangyang glared at Xiaohua and asked in a bad mood. Even. Xiaohua shrunk his neck. He was so scared that he didn't dare to say anything. However, he understood in his heart that the slight gap caused by the heat of possession had already been closed. Xiangyang wanted to ask a few questions, but he had misgivings about promising Xiaohua, so he forcefully restrained himself and could only smile foolishly. After a while, Xiaohua transmitted his voice again and told her about the matter of cultivating the lightning evasion. Yan Qinglian's face once again showed astonishment. This was also something she had never heard of before. However, looking at Xiaohua's smiling face, Yan Qinglian nodded firmly. After that, the four of them rested for half a day at the back of Misty Mountain before bidding farewell to Lingjingyi. Because of Shui, Lingjingyi didn't set up any big battle array. He only brought Ling Feiyun, and the two of them sent the four of them far away. When Xiaohua and the others disappeared, Ling Feiyun clenched his fist and said in a low voice, "Father, this boy has decided. If he wants to walk, he will walk his own path. My Misty Mountain has an inheritance and a true spirit bloodline. Before this boy cultivates the Ling family's martial arts to the extreme, he will not consider anything else." Lingjingyi nodded and said, "Father understands your thoughts. If you want to do it, Father will naturally support you. After that, the two of them didn't return to Misty Mountain and headed towards Flying Phoenix Ridge, ignoring the fact that Xiaohua's words had a huge impact on Ling Feiyun's cultivation and Ling Jingyi's actions when he went to the Phoenix Ridge. Xiaohua flew with Xiangyang for another 10 days. Seeing that Shueishue's expression was slightly better, Xiaohua smiled apologetically and said, "This poor Taoist helped you kill Pu Jianyuan, and you didn't even say a word of thanks. Instead, you only frowned for a few days straight. Can't you give this poor Taoist a reason? You only said that you will talk about it in the future. Isn't that making I worried?" Xiaohua didn't transmit his words. Obviously, he wanted Xiangyang and Yan Qinglian to hear and persuade them together. However, who would have thought that Xiangyang and Yan Qinglian would ignore him? Shueishue pursed her lips and said with a smile, "You already said that you won't let I say thanks. Why do you still want to ask? Besides, there are many things that don't necessarily have to have an ending. Being able to experience the pain and sweetness together is already the best." "All right." Seeing that Shueishue was smiling, Xiaohua shrugged and didn't say anything else. Shueishue also clearly understood that she had neglected Xiaohua because of her own emotions. She once again extended her slender finger and lightly pointed at Xiaohua. Moreover, that Pu Jianyuan is truly abominable. He clearly wants to exterminate the descendants of the Ling family in the Mist Mountain, but he still uses the pretense of looking for magic tools. If you kill him, won't you get a lot of benefits? Hee. Don't make me talk about your transmissions with Qian Yuming and Zhanyu again. I'm afraid you have some transactions, right? Xiaohua curled his lips and said, "To be honest, fellow Taoist Ling's actions aren't that strong. It's just that he's a lot smarter and Pu Jianyuan only realized it recently. No matter what Pu Jianyuan's intentions are, he always has a valid excuse. Actually, when it comes to the content of the transmissions, it's nothing special. It's just that Pu Jianyuan found the traces of the fire ape and thought of his artifacts. When he invited cultivators to help him, he met Qian Yuming and Zhanyu, who also found the traces of the fire ape. Pu Jianyuan has a way to subdue the fire ape, and Qian Yuming and Zhanyu have the strength. The three of them colluded without prior consultation. As for whether killing Pu Jianyuan and subduing Misty Mountain is Pu Jianyuan's final plan, that's not something I can know. TSK, that's a fire ape, a 5th-rank spiritual beast with an early gold core cultivation. Now that you already have Radiant Sun and Shadow Moon, plus Senior Martial Brother and Senior Martial Sister, it's not impossible to subdue it. Why weren't you tempted that day?" Shueishue pursed her lips and smiled. "Radiant Sun and Shadow Moon are your artifacts. How can I refine them? I'll leave them to you," Xiaohua said with a smile. "As for the fire ape? I still want to live a few more days, so I won't listen to the two of them." A strange look flashed across Shueishue's eyes. She shook her head and said, "Darling Xiao, although Radiant Sun and Shadow Moon are Ling families, they're still useful to me. However, I don't have to refine them." "If you have the ability, you should refine them. When I have a use for them in the future, you can use them on my behalf." "That's fine too." Xiaohua nodded. "Isn't what's yours also mine?" Shueishue rolled her eyes at him. "I've always heard Senior Martial Sister Sun say that you were stingy the last time you went out. Why do you think that what's yours is mine today? Moreover, Zhanyu and the others have their eyes on the fire ape. If you can refine Shadow Moon and Radiant Sun, you'll have a 40% chance of subduing the fire ape. Why are you shrinking back? This really isn't your style. Act according to your ability. Act according to your ability." Xiaohua avoided talking about his own stinginess and waved his hand. "Let's not talk about the fire ape's early-stage gold core cultivation. Even if I have a 40% chance of subduing it, according to Qian Yuming, there's also a thunder beast that appeared with the fire ape. I have never heard of this thing. To be able to travel with the fire ape, I don't have the wishful thinking of subduing 2 spirit beasts." Xiaohua and Shueishue were only chatting idly as they flew behind Xiangyang and Yan Qinglian. However, when Xiangyang and Yan Qinglian heard the 2 words Thunder Beast, they suddenly stopped. Their bodies seemed to be imprisoned, and they almost fell from the sky. With great difficulty, they stabilized their bodies and turned around almost instantly. They rushed to Xiao Hua and anxiously said, Junior Martial Brother Xiao, what did you say? Thunder Beast? Xiang Yang's voice and body were trembling, as if he was too excited. Thunder Beast? Qian Yuming transmitted his voice to this little brother. When they discovered the fire ape, there were traces of lightning strikes in the trees around the fire ape. They suspected that it was a thunder beast. Xiao Hua replied somewhat strangely. This little brother also didn't know whether what they said was true or not. It was extremely dangerous left and right, so this little brother also didn't tell eldest senior martial brother. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Qidian. Chapter 1865. Did they see what the lightning beast looked like? Yan Qinglian's voice was also trembling. Xiao Hua smiled and said, Zhan Yu did say that there was a blurry shadow. It was too fast and couldn't be seen clearly, but there was a pair of wings. Sure enough. Xiang Yang was overjoyed, and his hand trembled again. Sure enough, Xiang Yang said sure enough for a long time, but he didn't say anything. Junior brother Xiao, where did this lightning beast appear? Yan Qinglian's mood had already stabilized, and she asked in a deep voice. Flame Forest Marsh. Xiao Hua answered without hesitation. Good, let's go to Flame Forest Marsh now. Yan Qinglian said decisively. Ah. Xiao Hua was surprised. We're not going to look at the sea, but at the beautiful seascape? Haha, of course we're not going. Xiang Yang laughed and said. Compared to my lifespan, the beauty of the seascape can't be placed in your senior sister-in-law's eyes. Senior brother, Xiao Hua was also pleasantly surprised, and asked curiously, what does this lightning beast have to do with senior brother's lifespan? This is naturally related, and it's greatly related. Xiang Yang smiled and said, actually, during this experiential learning, my greatest hope is to encounter a lightning beast. Only the lightning beast's inner core can restore my lifespan. Of course, this lightning beast is only a legend. Even Gold Core and Nascent Soul seniors covet it. I only have hope, but I don't dare to imagine it, so I didn't explain it to you. But it really makes me happy. I just left the mountain, and I already encountered it. I don't know if it's my luck, or junior brother's luck. Xiao Hua looked at Yan Qinglian crying tears of joy, and his eyes were also moist. He smiled and said, of course it's senior brother's luck. Senior brother is honest and never deceives others. If the heavens don't care for this kind of cultivator, then the heavens are really unfair. Congratulations senior brother, the heavens really have opened their eyes. Xue Xue also went up to congratulate. Hee, I only see hope. Xiang Yang laughed and said, the lightning beast is a 6th grade spirit beast, and has the strength of Gold Core middle stage. It's far from what we foundation establishment cultivators can covet. 6th grade spirit beast? Xue was stunned. Humph, you're only at the middle Gold Core stage. Xiao Hua clenched his teeth. Since it can increase eldest senior brother's lifespan, then even if I have to use all my skills, I will still kill it. Haha, thank you junior brother Xiao. Xiang Yang smiled and said, let's go and look for an opportunity first. Since Zhan Yu and the others can be greedy, we might have a chance as well. You're right. Xiao Hua clapped his hands and said, although Qian Yuming wanted to persuade me, I stopped him. From the looks of it, Spirit Husbandry Sect and Huanghua faction are not the only ones who are greedy for the fire apes and lightning beasts. Let's go and cooperate with them. Cooperation? A strange look appeared on Xiang Yang's face as he said with a wry smile, the thunder beast's strength is unfathomable, and its entire body is filled with treasures. However, the most important thing is its monster core. What I want is precisely its monster core. I'm afraid it won't be easy for us to work together. That's true. Xiao Hua nodded and frowned, as if he was thinking about something. Husband, let's go and take a look. Since there's some hope now, it's better than nothing. Even if there's half a chance, junior brother Xiao, junior sister Xue, and I will work hard for this half a chance. Yan Qinglian stepped forward and smiled. At this moment, Yan Qinglian's slightly charming face had such a smile, which made Xiang Yang stunned again. He also smiled and said, how can I bear to let my wife work so hard? Seeing eldest senior brother and senior sister-in-law being so affectionate, Xue Xue unconsciously raised her head and looked at Xiaohua. There was a trace of reluctance in her eyes. Her strange gaze attracted Xiaohua's attention. When Xiaohua raised his eyes to look at her, there was only tenderness left in Xue Xue's eyes. She stuck to Xiaohua's gaze like honey. Seeing Xue Xue's tenderness, Xiaohua's heart was filled with sweetness. Just as his brows relaxed, his eyes lit up. He clapped his hands and took out a jade slip from the space. After his divine sense entered it, he was ecstatic. He flew in front of Xiangyang and handed the jade slip over with a smile. Congratulations, senior brother. I found another strong helper for senior brother. Oh. Xiangyang was stunned. He took the jade slip and read it with his divine sense. He asked curiously, "Who left this? They actually asked you for information about the Thunder Beast?" Ha ha ha. Senior brother, do you remember when I went to the Eastern Ridge Herb Garden for the first time and missed the delivery of the Flame Dawn grass? I remember. Didn't he punish you with a year's supply of spirit stones and medicinal pills? He even told you to go to Senior Zhang and confess your crimes. Xiangyang was very familiar with Xiaohua's matters. I'll let senior brother know, Xiaohua said with a smile. Back then, Grandmaster Zhang said he wouldn't pursue the matter, but he didn't let little brother off so easily. He gave little brother a jade slip, saying that he was looking for something. Because little brother had delayed him from going out to look for it, he punished little brother by telling little brother to find it. Jade slip? At that time, you hadn't reached the 12th layer of qi refining, so how could you see the jade slip? Moreover, you didn't tell me that day, Xiangyang asked. Hee, because I was afraid master and senior brother would be worried, I didn't tell you. Xiaohua said apologetically. Grandmaster Zhang Yi gave me another 20 years, enough for me to reach the 12th layer of qi refining. I can see it myself. Xiangyang sighed and didn't say anything else. Even if he saw the jade slip and told them about the search for the Thunder Beast, what could they do? When I just got my divine sense, I saw it, but I didn't know what the Thunder Beast was. There was still a long way to go, so I threw it to the back of my mind. Even when I heard Qian Yiming talk about it a few days ago, I didn't care and didn't think about it at all. If senior brother didn't mention it just now, I really would have forgotten about Grandmaster Zhang Yi. Grandmaster Zhang Yi, what does he want the Thunder Beast for? He's a famous alchemist in Thunder Palace, so he's most likely going to use the Thunder Beast's inner core to refine medicinal pills. Although our chances of getting the Thunder Beast's inner core have greatly increased with his help, but can he give husband the inner core? Yan Qinglian said worriedly. Xiaohua said curiously, senior sister, could it be that Grandmaster Zhang Yi can't refine medicinal pills? Senior brother can only get a complete inner core? Yan Qinglian said with a bitter smile. A complete Thunder Beast's inner core would be the best. If it's not, even a part of the Thunder Beast's inner core wouldn't be impossible. However, medicinal pills refined from the Thunder Beast's inner core wouldn't be suitable for your senior brother's use. Forget it, I'll explain it to you properly. Xiangyang looked around and said with a sigh. He was actually quite calm. Chapter 1866. After Xiangyang finished speaking, Xiaohua finally understood that the damage to Xiangyang's Dao Foundation was caused by the thunder in the myriad Thunder Valley. Thunder beasts were natural spiritual beasts that could absorb thunder and control thunder and lightning. Their inner cores also contain the essence of thunder. This essence of lightning was incomparably powerful, but to Xiangyang, whose Dao Foundation was damaged by lightning, it was also a good medicine to repair it. Just like the venom of a poisonous snake, although the poison in the venom could kill ordinary people, it could also be a miraculous medicine to fight poison with poison. Xiangyang's method of using the essence of lightning to repair his Dao Foundation was a secret technique that he had no choice but to search through the ancient records of the Imperial Thunder Sect. He only told Xiangyang and his wife before he left the Imperial Thunder Sect. Of course, the inner cores of lightning beasts used in this secret technique could only be original inner cores and not medicinal pills that had been refined by mortal flames. As for how much inner cores of lightning beasts to use, it would depend on the degree of damage to Xiangyang's Dao Foundation. In this way, Xiang Yang's request would inevitably deviate from Zhen Ye's request. If using inner cores to repair one's Dao foundation was an unorthodox method, then using inner cores to refine medicinal pills was the correct method. Medicinal pills refined from lightning beast's inner cores were also very useful for lightning cultivators, especially for golden core cultivators like Zhen Yi, who had an even greater thirst for rare medicinal pills. To tell the truth, Zhen Yi might not necessarily give up some inner cores of lightning beasts because they were fellow disciples of the same sect. However, if they didn't have Zhen Ye's help, how confident would Xiang Yang, Yin Qinglian, Xiao Hua, and Xue be when facing a 6th-rank spirit beast? Xiao Hua admittedly hid many divine abilities, but he wasn't arrogant enough to challenge a golden core spirit beast. Moreover, there were also cultivators from other sections. Those who dared to come looking for the fire ape and lightning beast weren't only foundation establishment cultivators like Zhan Yu and Qian Yuming, who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. There were also true golden core cultivators. I'm afraid they'll have to find help. This was Xiao Hua's first reaction after hearing this. Who could help? Zhuo Minghui couldn't do it, and Cui Hongshan couldn't do it either. They could only rely on Zhen Yi. Sure enough, after Xiang Yang and Yin Qinglian had a brief discussion, they said to Xiao Hua, "Junior Martial Brother Xiao, this matter should be explained to Martial Uncle Zhen Yi. Not to mention that we're not strong enough. Just because you agreed to help him, we should also inform Martial Uncle Zhen about this matter. And I'll listen to eldest senior brother's instructions." Xiao Hua nodded. There should be a secret stronghold of my Imperial Thunder sect in front of the teleportation array. Write down this matter on a jade slip, and I'll take it for you. Xiang Yang said without hesitation. Let's head to Shihuang Town first, and find a place near Flame Forest Swamp to wait for Martial Uncle Zhen Ye's news. Great. Xiao Hua clapped his hands and said. The closest transmission array to the Misty Mountain was located in a small town called Pusong, which was less than half a day's journey ahead of Xiao Hua's group. After Xiang Yang made up his mind, everyone increased their flying speed and flew towards Pine Tree Town. However, after flying for less than an hour, Xiang Yang discovered that something was amiss. It was none other than Yin Qinglian, who was by his side. Xiang Yang actually discovered that Yin Qinglian's flying speed had increased by a fraction. Yin Qinglian was the same as Xiang Yang. She wasn't a direct disciple of the Imperial Thunder sect, so she couldn't be taught the Imperial Thunder sect's orthodox lightning evasion technique. She could only cultivate the lightning evasion technique of the Imperial Thunder sect under the guidance of others. The lightning evasion technique had harsh requirements on the physical body. Therefore, although Yin Qinglian had stepped into the middle stage of the Foundation establishment realm many years before Xiang Yang, her attainments in the lightning evasion technique weren't particularly obvious. After Xiang Yang cultivated to the middle stage of the Foundation establishment realm, he also began to dabble in the lightning evasion technique. His progress was also very fast. Although he couldn't compare to Yin Qinglian, the difference wasn't too great. However, just now, Yin Qinglian's hibernating lightning evasion technique was clearly faster than before, which easily attracted Xiang Yang's attention. I'm afraid it's because of junior brother Xiao. Xiang Yang turned his head and glanced at Xiao Hua. Behind him, Xiao Hua and Xue were both using the hibernating lightning evasion technique. He also only smiled at Yin Qinglian, who had sensed something strange, and turned her head to look at him. He didn't ask a single word. Pusong Town arrived quickly. Xiang Yang scanned it with his divine sense and directly flew outside the town's west. After stopping in midair, he took out a yellow talisman that flickered with lightning. Under the urging of his transcendence energy, the yellow talisman transformed into a bolt of lightning. It first flew into the air, then disappeared towards the west. It actually had a concealment effect. My goodness, what kind of messaging talisman is this? Xiao Hua originally thought that eldest senior brother was going to look for someone. Who would have thought that he would actually send a messaging talisman here? Moreover, this messaging talisman was very strange, so he couldn't help but ask. Hehe, this is the hibernating lightning messaging talisman that we Foundation Establishment Realm cultivators use when we come out for training. Xiang Yang said with a smile. My Imperial Thunder sect is a large cultivation sect on the Xiaoyu continent. Although we don't operate any teleportation formations, there are always disciples on duty near the teleportation formations. These disciples are specifically responsible for transmitting information from various places. We Foundation Establishment Realm cultivators also have the right and duty to send all kinds of information back to the Imperial Thunder Sect. The hibernating lightning messaging talisman is fine, but important information still has to be passed back to the sect by these disciples on duty. While Xiangyang was speaking, a very ordinary-looking disciple flew over from afar. His cultivation was only around the 11th layer of the Qi refining realm. That disciple stepped forward and saluted Xiangyang and Yanqinglian. "I, Wu Ming, greet the two senior brothers." Xiangyang smiled and returned the salute, saying, "We are disciples of the Thunder Sect's myriad Thunder Valley. We have to inform Martial Uncle Zhen Yi of the Thunder Sect, so we'll have to trouble junior brother." "Oh, Martial Uncle Zhen Yi?" Wu Ming's expressionless face changed slightly, and he nodded, saying, "I don't dare. Please give me the identity token and jade slip, senior brother." Xiangyang handed the identity token and jade slip to Wu Ming. Wu Ming took them, and first used his divine sense to penetrate the identity token. After checking, he used his left hand to cast a spell on the jade slip, and handed the two things back to Xiangyang, saying, "Senior brother Xiang, please keep the token. This jade slip has been placed with a restriction. This restriction is a common restriction used by my Imperial Thunder Sect to transmit information. Once it's broken, it can no longer be used." Xiangyang didn't dare to be careless. After taking it, he checked it with his divine sense and handed it to Wu Ming with satisfaction, saying, "Thank you for your trouble." "No problem." Wu Ming took the jade slip and turned to fly to the south of Pine Tree Town. Xiangyang hurriedly said, "Junior brother Wu, wait a moment. We're also going to the teleportation formation." "Oh." Wu Ming stopped and said with a smile, "I'd better not go with senior brother." "I know. I just want to ask junior brother something." Xiangyang nodded. "Please speak, senior brother Xiang." Wu Ming didn't seem to be sloppy and said concisely. Xiangyang hesitated for a moment and asked, "I don't know what's going on with the teleportation formation in the direction of Western Huangtown." "Western Huangtown? Flaming Forest Marsh?" Wu Ming glanced at Xiangyang, then at Xiaohua and Shui behind Xiangyang. He shook his head and said, "Flame Forest Swamp's terrain is complicated, but it has always been a good place for Foundation Establishment cultivators in our country of Xi to gain experience. Usually many cultivators go there, and the news from there is nothing special. However, after Mo Yuan, who was guarding the teleportation formation in Yen Abyss City, strangely died in Flaming Forest Marsh, Yen Abyss City sent 2 cultivators to guard Western Huangtown. The security is much tighter." "He many thanks, junior brother Wu." Xiangyang cupped his hands and thanked him. "You're welcome." Wu Ming nodded and then looked at Xiaohua and said with a smile, "Senior brother Xiang, going to Flaming Forest Marsh to gain experience should be a good choice. However, it's best not to bring your junior brother and junior sister. That's not a good place to break through to Foundation Establishment." I understand." Xiangyang nodded. Then, Wu Ming bid farewell to everyone and quickly left. "Senior brother, this disciple is clearly at the 11th layer of Qi refining. Why did he call you senior brother?" Shui looked at Wu Ming's back and asked in a low voice. Yan Qinglian smiled and said, "Most of the disciples on guard outside are at the early stage of Foundation Establishment. It's only because they practice some of my Imperial Thunder Sect's secret techniques that they can hide their cultivation. That's why you can see that they are only at the Qi refining stage." Shui suddenly understood and said with a smile, "I've long heard of this kind of magical technique, but I didn't expect to see it with my own eyes. If others treated them as Qi refining disciples, they would really suffer a big loss." Then, she thought of something and turned her head, saying, "Darling Xiao, have you already reached Foundation Establishment? You're still hiding your cultivation and making us anxious?" Xiaohua spread his hands and said, "I am a real Qi refining cultivator. If I were at Foundation Establishment, I wouldn't have provoked Master's scolding." Your Qi refining cultivation seems to be even more deceptive than Martial Uncle Wu's concealment." Shui smiled. "When others conceal their cultivation, they can still be seen through by others. You're not afraid of being seen through. Just this little secret and you guys saw through it. Xiaohua pretended to smile bitterly. Xiangyang shook his head. Although Wu Ming can conceal his cultivation, that technique is extremely difficult to practice. Moreover, after practicing it, it will delay one's own cultivation. Therefore, after these disciples complete their mission and return to the sect, they will often be rewarded handsomely. Although Wu Ming's cultivation is only at the early stage of foundation establishment, if he can focus on his cultivation, he should also be at the middle stage of foundation establishment. And this disciple understands. Shui nodded. It's really hard for them. Not only do they have to take the risk to pass the message, but they also have to delay their cultivation. It's really not easy. We'll go to Shihuang town first. The four of them waited in the air for a while. Only after calculating that Wu Ming had already entered the transfer formation, did they get up and go. Pusong town's transfer formation wasn't big because there was only one transfer formation in the surroundings. There were quite a lot of cultivators who came through the transfer formation, so they didn't have to wait. Xiaohua followed Xiangyang. After several transfers, they finally arrived at Shihuang town again. As soon as they appeared at the transfer formation, Xiaohua saw city guards wearing Yinyuan City's armor, and two middle-stage foundation establishment cultivators staring at them with bright eyes. Of course, their gazes were all focused on Xiangyang and Yanqinglian, not Xiaohua and Shui. The current Xiaohua had already adapted to the transfer formation, so the dizziness didn't appear at all. When Xiaohua followed Xiangyang out of the transfer formation, they had just walked 10 steps when they saw the transfer formation flash again. The two cultivators who were staring at Xiangyang had astonishment in their eyes. They actually walked to the front of the transfer formation and bowed to pay their respects. Chapter 1867. Seeing the two middle-stage foundation establishment cultivators guarding the transportation formation quickly walk up behind him and prepare to salute, how could Xiaohua not know that there were at least golden core cultivators inside the transportation formation? Xiangyang and the others were not slow either. They quickly moved to the side and stood respectfully. Only then did they cast their gazes towards the transportation formation. At this moment, the brilliance of the transportation formation had just faded away. There were 3 cultivators standing inside. The one in front was actually less than 3 feet tall. Moreover, his face was like a full moon, and his teeth were white and his lips were red. He truly looked like a child. Behind this child were 2 old men over 50 years old. However, the 2 old men had respectful expressions as they hid behind the child. Junior greets Senior Xiang. The 2 cultivators guarding the transportation formation bowed. They clearly recognized this golden core cultivator. And you may rise. The golden core cultivator's voice was very tender. He raised his small hand and said with a smile, "You must have worked hard guarding the transportation formation." "I dare not. This is Junior's duty and also the city lord's request." The cultivator still replied respectfully. "Have there been any other golden core cultivators coming over these past few days?" The golden core cultivator walked and asked casually. The 2 cultivators glanced at each other. Their eyes were filled with bitterness. One of them smiled apologetically and said, "Senior Xiang, please no. Junior does not dare to say too much about who was sent over. I presume Senior Xiang does not like to pry?" A trace of coldness flashed across the golden core cultivator's face. He released the pressure from his body and pressed down on the cultivator who spoke. Immediately, large beads of sweat dripped from the cultivator's forehead. However, in just half a breath, the pressure suddenly disappeared. The golden core cultivator smiled amiably and pointed at the cultivator with his delicate finger. "City Lord Jiang is indeed a good teacher. Don't be afraid, I was just joking with you. Hee, Junior knows, Junior knows." The cultivator did not dare to say anything else. "What did you come to Western Huang Town for?" The golden core cultivator's gaze fell on Xiaohua and Shui. He actually asked without any trace of politeness. Xiangyang immediately bowed and said, "Junior Thunder Controlling Sex Xiangyang greets Senior Xiang. These 2 disciples are Junior's junior brothers. They are the key to foundation establishment, So Junior specially brought them here to gain experience. Oh. The Golden Core cultivator retracted his gaze and glanced at Xiangyang. Of all places to train, why must you come to Shihuang town? After saying that, he ignored the four of them and walked out of the quiet room where the teleportation array was located. Without waiting for the Golden Core stage cultivator to leave, the transmission array flashed again, and several Foundation Establishment stage cultivators were also sent over. Seeing the short and small figure of the Golden Core stage cultivator, they did not dare to leave and hurriedly stood near Xiangyang and the rest. Only when the figure of the Golden Core stage cultivator disappeared did everyone heave a sigh of relief. Looking at each other, they scattered out of the transmission array. After exiting the teleportation formation, Xiangyang looked a little hesitant. He flew into the air and looked in the direction of the Flame Forest Mountains, but did not move forward. Eldest senior brother, who was that Aurus Core stage senior just now? Xiaohua asked in a low voice. Could it be because of that senior? Sai, that's right. Xiangyang was a little worried and said in a low voice. Although this senior's cultivation is not particularly high, but because of his appearance, many cultivators recognize him. He is Senior Xiang Min of the Five Elements sect. Xiaohua nodded slightly and said with a smile. That's true. With this kind of appearance, who wouldn't know? Xiangyang smiled bitterly. This is still secondary. I'm afraid that because this senior had some misfortune when he was young, he does as he pleases and is vicious and merciless. Just now in the transmission array, he actually spoke to us. If it was someone else, who would do this? Just now he really scared me to death. I'm afraid that he will suddenly attack. It can't be. Xiaohua was a little flabbergasted. I'm only a qi condensation stage cultivator. There's no reason. Fortunately, it's the Yen Abyss City's transmission array. Yan Qinglian nodded. He also has to be wary of Yen Abyss City's City Lord Jiang. Then his words. I'm afraid it's a warning to us. Shui said thoughtfully. Who knows? Xiangyang looked at the distant sky and frowned. If it's a warning, can't he just tell me directly? Why tell Junior Martial Brother Xiao? But if it's because he's concerned, all the seniors in the Dawnrain continent will say it. But I don't want to believe that he will say it. Then, let's not go to the Flame Forest Marsh first. Xiaohua nodded. Let's go somewhere else first. When Grandmaster Zhenyi comes, we won't be afraid of that guy anymore. That's the only way. Xiangyang originally planned to go to the Flame Forest Marsh first to see if there was a chance for him to get the Thunder Beast first. Although this chance was very slim, Xiangyang still wanted to try. But who knew that Xiang Min, who had the same surname as him, would suddenly appear? He didn't think that Xiang Min would let him go just because they had the same surname. If he didn't hide first, what else could he do? Yan Qinglian obviously understood Xiangyang's thoughts. She flew forward and said, Husband, it's not a temporary thing. If husband is fated, even if you go late, you will still get it. Going early is not a good thing. Let's go. Xiangyang waved his hand and led the group in a different direction. Several cultivators who came out at the same time as Xiangyang also seemed to have the same idea. They didn't go to the Flame Forest Marsh. However, not long after, cultivators of different cultivation levels came out of the teleportation formation. They didn't know that Xiangmin was going to the Flame Forest Marsh. They all flew to the Flame Forest Marsh according to their own arrangements. Xiaohua followed Xiangyang and flew for 4 hours before he arrived at a desolate place. This place was filled with mountains and trees. Only the color of the rocks was different from that of the Flame Forest Swamp. Other than that, there was nothing different about this place. We'll wait here. Xiangyang scanned with his divine sense and said with satisfaction. Junior Martial Brother Xiao is still with Junior Martial Sister Shui. We'll wait patiently for news from Grandmaster Zhenyi. We'll listen to eldest Senior Martial Brother's instructions. Xiaohua also didn't hold back. He also scanned with his divine sense and brought Shui to the foot of a mountain. He released the puppet and expanded a cave. Xiaohua and Shui went inside and took out the rabbit spirit talisman. They carefully threw it out. After the formation was activated, Xiaohua let out a long breath. He looked at Shui who was also a bit scared and said, If this Youngmin is really like what eldest senior martial brother said, acting strange and attacking everyone, it will be really difficult to deal with. Yeah, she's already a Jindan stage senior. And she still has the nerve to attack a foundation establishment disciple. Shue's face also showed disdain. AI, only increasing my cultivation level is the right way. Xiaohua rarely had the thought of being intimate with Shui. He sat cross-legged and began to circulate his cultivation. Shui naturally didn't dare to be negligent. She also sat in a corner of the cave and cultivated. Chapter 1868. Dozens of days passed in a flash. On this day, Xiaohua was sitting cross-legged. He was about to use the prairie fire cultivation method to refine the flames in his body. However, after thinking about it, the thunder beast was with the fire ape. Presumably, its whereabouts were also hidden. Zhan Yu and Qian Yiming were bewitched by Pu Jianyuan. Wasn't it because they wanted to obtain the ancestral magic tools of the Misty Mountain? Relying on the ancestral magic tools to find the fire ape's whereabouts? If he wanted to help his eldest senior brother find the thunder beast, the magic tools of the Misty Mountain must be refined. Moreover, these magic tools were passed down from the ancestors of the Misty Mountain. If Shui could refine them, that would be the best. He wouldn't have to take everything from Shui. Thinking of this, Xiaohua waved his hand and took out 2 magic tools that looked like seals. He whispered, Shui. Husband, what's the matter? Shui's bright eyes moved as she called out naturally. These 2 magic tools belong to your Misty Mountain and Phoenix Ridge. I took them away because I was angry at your uncle's scheme. Now is the time for eldest senior brother to use them. You should take them and refine them. After you finish refining them, you can also help eldest senior brother. Xiaohua said with a smile. He waved his hand and the 2 magic tools fell in front of Shui. Hee, husband, uncle has received a lot of benefits from you. Let's not talk about the flying Phoenix Ridge. Uncle and Feiyun's bloodline awakening is far more valuable than these 2 magic tools. You don't need to be polite anymore. Shui smiled and waved her hand. The magic tools flew back to Xiaohua's hand. Moreover, the ancestral magic tools of the Misty Mountain can't be refined before reaching the foundation establishment stage. The magic tools of the Phoenix Ridge must also have the same saying. Husband, if you let me refine them now, wouldn't you be harming me? Ling. Why didn't your uncle tell me? Xiaohua was stunned. I'm afraid it's because he knows you can refine them. Moreover, husband, don't you have me by your side? Shui said with a smile. Then, aren't these 2 magic tools for eldest senior brother to refine? Xiaohua scratched his head. Hee, there's nothing wrong with eldest senior brother refining them. Shui suggested. However, I will also be using them in the future. If eldest senior brother refines them, it will be inconvenient for me to use. In my opinion, it's better for husband to refine them. Yes, I understand, Xiaohua said with a smile. Presumably, your uncle knows that your husband can suppress this magic tool. That's why he didn't tell your husband about the pros and cons of this floor. Of course. Great. Xiaohua clapped his hands and the 2 magic tools floated into the air. Xiaohua held the 2 jade amulets in his hand and immersed his divine sense into them. He looked at them again and didn't find any flaws. Only then did he withdraw his divine sense. However, he didn't take back the 2 jade amulets. Xiaohua closed his eyes and slowly waved his left and right hands. Spells gradually formed in his hands and hit one of the magic artifacts. As the spells entered, the big seal gradually emitted a soft orange brilliance, and the brilliance became brighter and brighter. In the end, it became a dazzling brilliance. At the same time, the shape of the big seal also disappeared, and a ball-like magic artifact appeared in the air, quietly floating in the air. Quick! Xiaohua shouted, and the spells changed again. His left hand formed a spell and didn't release it. His right hand continuously changed, and like a pipa, it hit the magic artifact Glorious Sun. As the spells entered, the Glorious Sun slowly began to rotate, and as it rotated, a suction force was born from the Glorious Sun, sucking in the magic power in Xiaohua's body. At first, it was like a trickling stream, but as the rotation sped up, It sucked in 60% of Xiaohua's magic power like a whale swallowing water. 60% of my magic power. Xiaohua was a little dumbfounded. He was very clear that his 60% magic power was not comparable to Ling Jingyi or Pu Jinyuan's 100% magic power. This glorious sun actually absorbed so much magic power. Ling Jingyi and the others, to what extent did they sacrificial refine it? After absorbing Xiaohua's magic power, the glorious sun rotated fiercely in the air, and it seemed that rays of light were thrown out from the glorious sun. Xiaohua was just about to make the final spell when his heart suddenly moved. He thought of the glorious sun and shadow moon that were connected together before. So he sat cross-legged. After recovering the magic power in his body, he actually took out another big seal. The process was the same as the process of sacrificial refining the glorious sun. As Xiaohua made the spell, the big seal also transformed into a semicircular shell-like magic artifact. The magic artifact Shadow Moon absorbed 60% of Xiaohua's magic power, and spun rapidly like the glorious sun. Xue Xue next to him was even more surprised. She couldn't help but sweat for Xiaohua. Rise, seeing this, the corners of Xiaohua's mouth curled into a smile, as if he had a card up his sleeve. He made 2 identical spell seals with his left and right hands. Suddenly, from the glorious sun and shadow moon, 2 orange flame phantoms flew out. One was in the shape of the glorious sun, and the other was in the shape of the shadow moon. These 2 phantoms rose higher and closer. When they reached a certain distance, they actually produced a force that Xiaohua couldn't control, and quickly pulled the 2 phantoms together. Moreover, in the instant the 2 phantoms overlapped, a powerful aura broke out from the phantoms. Like the pressure of a Jindan cultivator, it spread towards the entire cave. Rise! Xiaohua was both surprised and happy. His body shook, and the phoenix Dharma body broke out from his body. The 200 feet tall Dharma body protected Xue Xue under it. The phoenix Dharma body's aura blocked the aura released by the phantoms with difficulty. This seems to be different from the pressure of a cultivator. Xiaohua felt the same, and immediately felt something was different. It's actually similar to the aura of this young master's phoenix Dharma body. Could it be? While he was thinking, the combined shape of the shadow moon and glorious sun gradually changed. A small fire ape shape was derived from the entire orange flame. Oh my, when did the 2 magic tools merge together? While Xiaohua was surprised, he also saw that the 2 magic tools that he had just chosen had merged together like the 2 phantoms at some unknown time. And just as Xiaohua was surprised, the combined shadow moon and glorious sun split into 2 like a chicken egg. A scarlet brilliance flashed from the split. At the place where the brilliance shone, a figure of light appeared. It was actually exactly the same as the shape of the flame. Fire Ape's soul essence. Xiaohua suddenly realized and was shocked. This magic tool actually concealed a Fire Ape's soul essence. Damn, this is the soul essence of a rank 5 spirit beast. Xiaohua was a bit flustered. He only wanted to refine the magic tool, but he didn't expect to overreach himself and take out the sealed soul essence. Seeing the Fire Ape soul essence fly into the flame, and actually form a flaming fire ape, a rather primitive divine sense was released from the flame, and swept towards Xiaohua and Xue Xue without any scruples. Moreover, when the divine sense swept past Xiaohua, it tightly locked onto him. A feeling of danger immediately emerged from Xiaohua's heart. Goldie! Xiaohua immediately thought of Goldie in the space, and promptly sent his divine sense into the space. Unfortunately, Goldie was currently sleeping and didn't pay attention to Xiaohua. What should I do now? When Xiaohua's divine sense left the space, the flaming fire ape's soul essence was already quickly flying towards Xiaohua. Xiaohua promptly dodged and unhesitatingly sent out his thunder palm. With a crackling sound, the foot-long lightning struck the fire ape's soul essence. The flames around the fire ape's soul essence burned fiercely, and actually blocked the thunder palm outside the flames. When Xiaohua saw that the spell was effective, his heart calmed down. He clapped his hand and the aqua pearl that he had never used before appeared in his hand. Under the urging of his magic power, a sparkling blue light emerged from the aqua pearl, and swept towards the fire ape's soul essence. With a whoosh, the fire ape's soul essence once again urged the flames around its body. At the point where the 2 lights collided, a crackling sound was emitted. At this critical moment, the aqua pearl's light dimmed and the sparkling blue light was annihilated. Xiaohua's magic power was actually insufficient. Speaking of which, Xiaohua was to blame. He was really too careless and used too much magic power to refine the two magic tools. Moreover, he didn't stop to recover his magic power the second time. The flames that the fire ape urged on were all the magic power that Xiaohua had previously provided. This time, Xiaohua had spun a cocoon around himself. Xiaohua. When Shui saw the situation, she knew that Xiaohua was exhausted. Without hesitation, she shouted and flew over. Shui. Xiaohua was greatly alarmed. The phoenix celestial body shook its wings and blocked Shui to the side. Then it stretched out its sharp claws and slashed towards the fire ape's soul essence. Not only that, Xiaohua's body didn't retreat. Instead, he advanced and flew upwards. He also took out the huge demonic hammer in his hand and directly smashed it towards the fire ape's soul essence. With a whoosh, the flames that couldn't be harmed by any spell were actually split into two by the phoenix celestial body's sharp claws. Then the demonic hammer smashed down again. With a whoosh, although it seemed to have hit empty air when it flew past the fire ape's soul essence, the slightly dimmed color showed that the demonic hammer had succeeded. Ha! Xiaohua was overjoyed. No longer hesitating, the phoenix celestial body's two sharp claws slashed towards the fire ape's soul essence one after another, as if it was using some kind of technique, blocking the soul essence from flying towards Xiaohua. Seeing that the soul essence couldn't get close to Xiaohua, the fire ape's soul essence's divine sense turned toward Shui. At the same time, the fire ape also flew toward Shui. How could Xiaohua let it leave? The phoenix celestial body blocked Shui behind it. Its sharp claws wrapped around the soul essence. After a while, seeing that the fire ape's soul essence couldn't get any advantage and was in a deadlock with Xiaohua, the fire ape's soul essence suddenly stopped in midair and looked towards the flame forest swamp. Its entire body broke away from the range of the phoenix celestial body's sharp claws and flew towards that direction. Don't go! Xiaohua shouted. The phoenix celestial body also flew up, and its beak naturally pecked at the fire ape's soul essence. As it opened its beak, a wind pillar emerged from the beak and covered the fire ape's soul essence. That wind pillar was the same as the wind pillar inside Ming Shui. It produced a kind of suction force and pulled the fire ape's soul essence towards the beak. Great! Xiaohua was overjoyed. He agitated the phoenix celestial body's wings and fiercely flapped them. The wind pillar within the beak became bigger and bigger, and the suction force also became stronger. It actually sucked the fire ape's soul essence and the flames into a thin line of fire and entered the celestial body. Chapter 1869. As the extremely aggressive fire ape's soul essence was absorbed into the phoenix celestial body, the desolate aura that filled the entire cave was immediately swept away. As soon as the fire ape's soul essence entered the phoenix celestial body, the entire celestial body's 13200 small dots formed a 13,200 hurricane pillar that immediately entangled the fire ape's soul essence, constantly wearing it down and tearing it apart. In just the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, not only were the flames around the soul essence annihilated, even the soul essence was annihilated into a tiny particle. That particle was the most essential thing, and just a few wind pillars couldn't erase it. The phoenix celestial body let out a long cry, and it was actually filled with joy. The entire celestial body trembled rapidly, and all the wind pillars within its body changed direction, blowing towards the phoenix head of the celestial body. Very naturally, the soul essence followed the wind pillars and flew towards the phoenix head. However, there was also a small red dot on the phoenix head. As soon as the soul essence entered, that small red dot suddenly ignited into a cluster of flames, and then the flame was extinguished. The wind pillars surrounding this small dot also disappeared, and the small dot gradually condensed into a transparent appearance. Following the formation of a transparent crystal, countless information swarmed into Xiaohua's mind like a swarm of bees. Ah! Xiaohua couldn't help but scream miserably. His entire head felt like it was about to explode, and his figure suddenly fell from mid-air. Xiaohua. Shui was shocked, and hurriedly went forward. Just as Xiaohua fell, the phoenix celestial body was absorbed into his body, and he easily fell into Shueishue's bosom. At this critical moment, the reverse light in the space behind Xiaohua's head suddenly lit up, and several rays of light flew out, protecting Xiaohua's mind. Numerous information poured into the reverse light along with the rays of light. After an unknown amount of time, Xiaohua woke up from his coma. Before he even opened his eyes, he smelled an elegant fragrance. Xiaohua, who had been intimate with Fairy Hongxia for a long time, immediately recognized that this was Shueishue's body fragrance. He greedily took a deep breath, and when he opened his eyes, he saw Shueishue's worried gaze. Seeing Xiaohua open his eyes, Shueishue was pleasantly surprised. She took the initiative to reach out and hug Xiaohua's shoulder. She pressed her pink face against Xiaohua's ear and let out a long sigh. "Xiaohua, you're finally awake." Xiaohua easily lifted his mouth and kissed Shueishue's earlobe. Shueishue quivered as if she had been electrocuted and rebuked. "This concubine was worried about you for half a day. You just woke up and you're already bullying me." With Shueishue's abnormally shy appearance, how could she still be a peak-stage qi refining cultivator? How was she any different from a little girl in the secular world? "Thank you for your hard work." Seeing Shueishue let go of him, Xiaohua jumped up, bowed to the ground, and said with a smile. Shueishue's face regained some color. She pouted and ignored him. She pointed at the two magic tools floating in the air and asked, "What's going on?" That year, this concubine had also seen Uncle refine them. How come there wasn't such a big movement? Xiaohua lifted his hand and rubbed his temples that were still somewhat swollen. He smiled bitterly in his heart. He naturally knew the reason. It was nothing more than a whimsical idea. He put the two magic tools together on the spur of the moment, and refined them together. Who would have thought that half of the fire ape's soul essence would be sealed inside the two magic tools? When they were refined together, the two halves of the fire ape's soul essence would fuse into one and become a complete soul essence. This wasn't something that a foundation establishment cultivator could resist. How could this compare to Ling Jingyi refining a magic tool with half of the fire ape's soul essence? Moreover, Ling Jingyi's bloodline also contained the true blood of the fire ape. Presumably, he wouldn't suffer a backlash and wouldn't be harmed by the fire ape's soul essence. Of course, Xiaohua's adventure this time was a success. His harvest was also plentiful. Not only did the Phoenix Dharma body obtain the fire ape's soul essence, even Xiaohua himself also obtained a lot of information. Of course, it was only plentiful and not complete. Xiaohua still didn't know how to use the fire ape's soul essence. Although there was a lot of information that entered Xiaohua's mind, it was all owned by the fire ape. The majority of it wasn't something that Xiaohua could understand. If it wasn't for the protection of reverse light, Xiaohua would have probably been pushed crazy by these things. Alas, this husband also didn't expect my cultivation to be so profound. Xiaohua blinked his eyes and said, "I actually successfully refined this sun-moon corona." TCH, seeing Xiaohua's somewhat narcissistic appearance, Shueishue very naturally raised her fist and lightly punched his shoulder. She rebuked, "Don't be so rash in the future. It's really too dangerous. You don't know how worried this concubine was." "I know," Xiaohua said in a low voice. He smiled and reached out to embrace Shueishue. Soon after, Xiaohua pointed his hand and the sun-moon corona flew back to his hand. However, when Xiaohua's divine sense swept over it, he was surprised again. What's wrong?" Shueishue was stunned. She struggled out of Xiaohua's arms and looked at the brand new magic artifact. She asked curiously, "This thing is called the sun-moon corona? Why, is it divided into two parts? One is called the glorious sun, and the other is called the shadow moon. And it's even in the possession of my Misty Mountain and Flying Phoenix Ridge?" Xiaohua smiled bitterly. He also vaguely knew the name of this magic artifact from the fire ape's soul. As for why it was divided into two parts, the fire ape didn't know. He only knew from the fire ape's resentment that it was very apprehensive of this magic artifact. This husband also doesn't know. However, you see, this magic artifact has a layer of restriction. Moreover, it's very powerful. It's far from what my cultivation can guess. Presumably, This was left for you. Xiaohua immediately remembered Ling Jingyi's instructions. Shui lightly bit her lips and nodded. She said, "And inside the restriction is a soul seal. It's related to this concubine." Soul seal? Xiaohua was stunned. His eyes moved, but seeing Shui's lazy face, he knew that she didn't want to say more. He handed the Sun Moon Corona over and said with a smile, "Since it's like this, wife should take it." "No, you take it." Shui didn't raise her hand at all. The corner of her mouth raised and said, "This thing is very important to this concubine, and this concubine doesn't have the power to protect herself. It's most suitable to leave it with husband. When this concubine needs it, husband can give it to this concubine." "Hee, you really know how to pick a place." Xiaohua smiled. With a wave of his hand, he put the magic artifact into his space. "Once this thing is in your husband's hands, no one can take it away." Hee. Shui seemed to remember Xiaohua's stingy appearance and actually laughed. Seeing Shui's smile like a flower, Xiaohua was also happy in his heart. At this moment, Xiaohua suddenly felt something in his heart. He suddenly raised his head and saw the flame forest mountain. He said in a low voice, "Refining this magic artifact is indeed useful." Soon after, Xiaohua clapped his hand and took out the Sun Moon Corona. He held it in his hand and activated his magic power. Following the flickering of the Sun Moon Corona, Xiaohua slightly narrowed his eyes. It seemed like he could see through the cave and look outside. Chapter 1870. After a long while, the Sun Moon Corona's brilliance finally extinguished. Shui whispered, "Husband, what did you sense?" "That fire ape is indeed in Flame Forest Marsh." Xiaohua nodded. "I can use this Sun Moon Corona to roughly sense its location. That thing also seems to have sensed. The fire ape's soul essence was rushing here, but it stopped just now. I wonder why." "Then what about the lightning beast?" Shui was first happy then panicked. Xiaohua shook his head. "I can't sense any lightning beast. However, we can't stay here for long. If it was just the fire ape, it would be fine, but if there's also the lightning beast, how can we be their match? Let's go." Saying this, Xiaohua put the Sun Moon Corona into his space. At this moment, a messaging talisman flew into the cave. "Haha, great." Xiaohua was overjoyed. Grandmaster Zhenyi came. It's really the right time. However, when Xiaohua flew out of the cave and saw only Xiangyang and Yan Qinglian, he couldn't help but be stunned. Xiangyang clearly knew Xiaohua's thoughts and said with a smile, "Grandmaster Zhenyi hasn't come yet, but I've already discussed it with your senior sister-in-law. According to the time, the Jade Slip should have already reached the Imperial Thunder Sect. Moreover, Grandmaster Zhenyi should have also come to Shihuang Town. Since he hasn't come yet, then presumably he isn't in the Imperial Thunder Sect. Although we have Grandmaster Zhenyi's help, we have a better chance of obtaining the Lightning Beast's core. However, if he doesn't come, there are still many sects and cultivation families eyeing the Lightning Beast. If we're late, I'm afraid we'll miss the opportunity. This core is related to my lifespan. I really can't wait." Xiaohua smiled bitterly. He naturally knew eldest senior brother's urgent thoughts. But what were the fire ape and the lightning beast? Yesterday, they almost couldn't deal with the fire ape's soul essence. How could they subdue the lightning beast? After thinking for a moment, Xiaohua nodded and said, "I'll let eldest senior brother know. I've just finished refining the magic tool I obtained from Misty Mountain." "Is that so? Great," Xiangyang said with a happy expression. "However, I've already sensed that the fire ape and lightning beast seem to be rushing in our direction. If eldest senior brother wants, we can rush over right now." "Are you kidding me?" Xiangyang's expression changed when he heard this. He asked anxiously, "Are you telling the truth?" "Absolutely." Xiaohua nodded without hesitation. "Damn it, then why aren't you running?" Xiangyang glared at Xiaohua and immediately flew into the air asking, "Which way should we run?" Xiaohua pointed with his finger. Xiangyang waved his hand without hesitation. "Let's go." The four of them flew for more than half a day. Seeing that they were about to reach the periphery of the Flame Forest Marsh, Xiangyang stopped and asked in a low voice, "Junior brother Xiao, how is it now?" Xiaohua took out the Sun Moon Corona. sensed it for a moment and nodded. I can't sense the fire ape's information anymore, it must be far away from it. Yes. Xiangyang relaxed and smiled bitterly. I knew that the thunder beast was close to the fire ape, but I couldn't attack it. I really had no choice. Junior brother Xiao, the fire ape left the flame forest swamp, and actually found its way to our vicinity. Is it because of junior brother's sacrificial refining of the magic tool? Yan Qinglian inquired. Xiaohua nodded. Indeed. Then if you're controlling the magic tool now, won't the fire ape be able to sense it? It shouldn't. Xiaohua smiled. When I was sacrificial refining, something went wrong and attracted the fire ape's attention. Controlling this magic tool shouldn't attract its attention. Okay. Yan Qinglian nodded. The four of them waited for several hours. Seeing that the moon was bright and the stars were few, Xiaohua asked in a low voice, Eldest senior brother, where should we go? In my opinion, it's better to first see where the cultivators of the other sects are. If we can join forces, that would be the best. Otherwise, we can only watch from the sidelines and see if there's a chance. Xiangyang was obviously a bit diffident. Yes. Xiaohua thought for a moment and said, Let's go to the place where the fire ape stopped to take a look. Maybe there are some fellow Taoists there. Xiangyang and the others didn't have any objections. They followed Xiaohua and flew to the other side of the flame forest swamp. Before Xiaohua's group of four arrived, their divine senses swept over, and they were immediately shocked by the miserable situation in front of them. They looked at each other in astonishment, and then increased their flying speed. When they arrived, although they were already mentally prepared, they still couldn't help but sigh endlessly. They saw that this was a place filled with rugged mountain rocks. The surrounding area was about several hundred feet of undulating gentle slopes. There were several dozen corpses of cultivators. They couldn't be said to be complete corpses, but they were all broken corpses. They were scattered all over this desolate mountain area. Dark brown blood stains had already dried up, and were smeared on the mountain rocks. The strangest thing was that these several dozen cultivators' heads could be considered complete, but there was a bowl-sized hole on each head. The inside of each head was empty and blood-stained. All of their brains had been dug out by spirit beasts. Moreover, there were many burn marks on the mountain rocks. Occasionally, there were also marks of lightning strikes. Next to these cultivators' corpses, there were some scattered medicinal pills, yellow talismans, and so on. As for storage pouches, without exception, they were all torn apart. There were also many broken magic tools. The majority of them were broken, and were no longer worth repairing. Only a large amount of spirit stones were left on the ground, untouched by anyone. Sigh. Shueshue sighed. She slightly raised her head and looked into the distance. Immediately after, Yan Qinglian also shook her head and no longer looked at the miserable situation. Forget it. Xiaohua glanced at Xiangyang and said in a low voice, Mortals have a custom of being buried in the ground for peace. Although we cultivators don't emphasize this, it's also not appropriate for these fellow Taoist corpses to be left here. Little brother, how about we melt them? Xiangyang slightly nodded and said, It's also a good deed for you. Hearing Xiangyang's command, Xiaohua sighed and waved his hand. Dozens of starfires flew out and landed on the corpses under the control of his divine sense. It didn't take long for the corpses to be cleaned up. Then Xiaohua didn't stand on ceremony. He waved his hand and gathered the scattered spirit stones, medicinal pills, and yellow talismans into his storage pouch. Xiangyang released his divine sense and checked the tokens and magic tools scattered on the ground. After Xiaohua collected the spirit stones, he said, The fellow Taoists who died here include 7 Skills Sect, Fuzhan Sect, Huangdao Sect, and Raging Flame Sect. There are a total of 9 sections. Most of them were Foundation Establishment cultivators, and a small number of them were Qi Refinement cultivators. Zhan Yu from Huanghua Sect was also within this number. When Xiaohua used the fireball to burn the cultivator's remains, he already saw a head that looked similar to Zhan Yu's. Hearing this, he nodded silently. Husband, I'm afraid something is wrong. Yan Qinglian, who had been silent, said, Wasn't Zhan Yu with Qian Yeming? Since Zhan Yu died here, what about Qian Yeming? Why aren't there any traces of spirit husbandry sect's disciples? Xiang Yang nodded first, then shook his head. Ever since Xiaohua killed Pu Jianyuan in the Fog Mountain, Zhan Yu and Qian Yiming revealed the fire ape's whereabouts. Zhan Yu and Qian Yiming lost the foundation for cooperation. Perhaps they thought that we would also come to Flame Forest Swamp, and Qian Yiming might have given up. I don't think so. Yin Qinglian shook her head and said, Previously, I thought the same as you. I thought that the cultivators of the various sects were doing their own thing, and wanted to snatch the fire ape or lightning beast's inner core, just like us. But looking at the cultivators who died here, there are no less than 2 people from each sect. Furthermore, there are a few sects gathered together. I'm afraid things aren't that simple. You're right, wife. Xiang Yang thought for a moment and said, However, they originally came to Flame Forest Swamp as a group. If they heard some news, the sects would have come to an agreement and gathered together. This is normal. Furthermore, didn't we also want to find someone to cooperate with? Yin Qinglian was silent for a moment and asked again. There's still something strange. The fire ape is a rank 5 spirit beast and the lightning beast is even rank 6. They're far from what these foundation establishment cultivators can handle. Why did they still walk into the trap in groups? There aren't any core formation seniors among these dead cultivators, right? This time, Xiang Yang also had nothing to say. He nodded and said, Indeed, they're all foundation establishment cultivators. They don't even have a single magic weapon. This is a very strange matter. Senior sister-in-law, there's only one possibility. Xiaohua had been thinking all along. Only now did he open his mouth and say, This is the periphery of Flame Forest Swamp. They simply didn't expect that the fire ape and lightning beast would suddenly come out from Flame Forest Swamp, and couldn't dodge in time. Or maybe they weren't going for the fire ape at all. When they collided like this, they were caught off guard. Shui agreed and said, It should be so. Even I didn't expect Xiaolang to refine a magic tool. The fire ape also came for this, so they must have encountered them. Looking at the remnants of the ground, Xiang Yang felt a burst of lingering fear in his heart. Just a moment ago, he was still full of ambition and wanted to fight for his lifespan. But when he saw so many cultivators who weren't inferior to him being trampled on like this, his confidence couldn't help but be extinguished by a lot. If we didn't leave just now. Yin Qinglian also felt lingering fear and said, I'm afraid it would have been extremely dangerous. Although his confidence was extinguished by a lot, Xiang Yang's state of mind was calm again. He glanced at Yin Qinglian and said, Since it was dangerous, we shouldn't get involved. Junior Martial Brother Xiao passed the news of the lightning beast to Martial Uncle Zhen Yi. As for whether or not he can obtain the lightning beast's core, it's not something we can consider. Your husband will accompany you to see the sea. Yin Qinglian smiled happily and slightly shook her head. Actually, after Master told me about the lightning beast, I already went to check the ancient records of Sunlei Palace. As early as several tens of thousands of years ago, there were records of the lightning beast appearing in Fenghe Sea. Even if Junior Martial's sister Shui didn't say it, I would have gone with my husband. Wife. Xiang Yang reached out and held Yin Qinglian's hands, saying very softly, You went to Sunlei Palace only to say goodbye to Senior Martial's sister. I didn't expect that you actually went to check the ancient records. Although I also want to travel freely with my husband, but we have a chance to spend more time together. Why not give it a try? Yin Qinglian said softly again. With Junior Martial Brother Zhao's magic tool, we can know the whereabouts of the fire ape, and our lives won't be in danger. Chapter 1871. Xiang Yang shook his head. What I want is the Thunder Beast's core, not the fire ape. Junior Brother Zhao's magic tool is useless. Yin Qinglian's heart was distressed. She understood that Xiang Yang didn't want her and Xiaohua's group to be implicated in this matter, and lose their lives easily. Thus she said tenderly, I'll listen to my husband. If my husband says we're going to Guihe Sea, we'll leave Flame Forest Marsh immediately. Seeing that his sister-in-law had decided, Xiaohua glanced at Shui. The two of them also nodded inwardly. However, at this moment, two divine senses swept over from the direction of Flame Forest Marsh, and locked onto the four of them. Humph. Xiaohua frowned and looked impatiently in that direction. He was already in a bad mood. How could he not be annoyed when he was locked onto by someone's divine sense? Hee, fellow Taoists, my master has already warned you not to approach Flame Forest Marsh. What? Are you not going to listen to a golden core cultivator? Not long after, two foundation establishment middle stage old men flew in front of them. They glanced at everything on the ground and sneered. We don't dare. Fellow Taoists, we're preparing to leave now. Xiangyang didn't want to be meddlesome and cupped his hands. You're a disciple of Imperial Thunder Sect. The old man on the left asked. That's right. I'm Xiangyang from Myriad Thunder Valley. This is my wife and two junior brothers. Xiangyang nodded. Yes, I'm Yuemiao. This is I's junior brother Chan Xinyan. The cultivator on the left cupped his hands. Hee, greetings fellow Taoist Yu and fellow Taoist Chan. Seeing that the two's attitude had returned to friendliness, Xiangyang cupped his hands in greeting. Yuemiao smiled and returned the greeting. Since you're a disciple of a famous sect and you're so sensible, I won't make things difficult for you. You only need to take out the things that don't belong to you from your storage pouch. As for my master's side, I'll talk to him. I will take the initiative to ask the four of you to leave. What? Xiangyang was stunned. Then he sneered. Fellow Taoist Yu, what do you mean? You don't understand what I mean. Another cultivator by the name of Chan Xingyin shouted out rudely. My master has already warned all of you. All of you had better hurry to Flame Forest Marsh. According to my master's orders, all of you will die here. Since my senior brother is merciful and has let you all go, why don't you all hurry up and bring the medicinal pills, jade slips, and other things over? If I don't take it, are you two going to attack me? Xiangyang was so angry that he laughed. You're just a cultivator from the Five Elements sect. How can you be more arrogant than my Imperial Thunder sect? Hee, how about the Imperial Thunder sect? I was prepared to let you go for the sake of the Imperial Thunder sect. What's wrong? Just you, a brat who just entered middle stage foundation establishment. Want to make things difficult for us? Chan Xinyan smiled coldly and said, If you don't wish to perish here, hurry up and take out the thing. Xiangyang looked at Yan Qinglian, but his gaze passed over her head. Xiaohua nodded slightly. Seeing Xiaohua nod, Xiangyang's heart calmed down. He shouted at Xiaohua and Shui. You all stand to the side and guard carefully. Watch how I deal with these two arrogant people. Yes, we will follow senior brother's orders. Xiaohua reached out his hand. Dozens of fireball talismans were held in his hand. He looked very guarded. Shui understood and also took out her yellow talismans. Seeing Xiaohua take out the fireball talismans, Xiangyang was secretly happy. He also clapped his hands. A 1 long spear was actually held in his hand. Not to mention the others, Xiaohua was first stunned. Since he became Helplessness's disciple, he had never seen his eldest brother use a celestial device. This was the first time he saw Xiangyang take out his handy celestial device. Although Xiaohua had never guessed what Xiangyang's celestial device looked like, when he saw the long spear, he instantly understood why Helplessness scolded him so harshly at the life and death temple outside the racing thunder field, accused him of not doing his job properly, and hated him for using martial arts to defeat Yan Xiefeng. It turns out, Xiangyang also has martial skills. Sure enough, Xiangyang held his magic tool, Thunderstrike, in his hand. He raised his eyes and looked at Xiaohua. There was some helplessness in his eyes. He shook his hand and shouted, Eat Eye's spear. Under the urging of his transcendence energy, the spear was like lightning. Threads of lightning surged out from the spear shaft. Following Xiangyang's spear move, it flashed with thunderbolts and shot towards Yuemiao. Yuemiao laughed loudly and said, Thy transcendence energy is only so. Watch Eye's methods. As he spoke, he clapped his hands. A large alms bowl was held in his hand. Under the urging of his transcendence energy, a misty splendor gushed out from the alms bowl. It was really like a fountain. Rise, Yuemiao lightly rebuked. The spell in his hand changed. That splendor flew out with his hand gesture. It slightly stagnated a few feet in front of him. Soon after, it rotated and formed a thin layer about 1 zhang in circumference, like a shield. Pung, a muffled sound was heard. Xiang Yang's spear tip had hit this layer of light curtain. A burst of crackling sound was heard. The light purple electric light quickly covered the entire light curtain. The entire light curtain shook in an instant. Hee, can I's eyesight be fake? You really are a brat who just entered the middle stage of foundation establishment. Yu Miao laughed sinisterly. The spell in his hand changed again. The splendor in the alms bowl condensed into the shape of ice thorns. They flew towards Xiang Yang from the left and right. Xiang Yang brandished his spear. Like a dragon drinking water, lightning flashed from the left and right, respectively hitting the ice thorns flying towards him. But in the instant that the ice thorns were hit, they suddenly trembled and unexpectedly split into two. They dodged the lightning and rushed towards Xiang Yang's body. This is bad. Xiao Hua watched the battle from the side and slightly frowned. He didn't know if Xiang Yang had a defensive magic tool on him. However, just as Xiao Hua started to worry, Xiang Yang's body unexpectedly flipped in midair. He extremely nimbly dodged the ice thorns. Although his skill couldn't compare to Xiao Hua's, it was absolutely impressive. So when eldest senior brother fought with me, he still held back a few moves. Xiao Hua laughed and immediately looked towards the battle between Yan Qinglian and Chan Xingyan. In Yan Qinglian's hand was a horsetail whisk. He didn't know what material it was made of, but it actually contained the power of lightning. Every time she waved it, traces of lightning would scatter like raindrops. Chan Xingyan was unable to withstand it. And Chan Xingyan was just like his name, he had a fire attribute physique. That magic tool was even more strange. It was like a rock, except that the rock was completely red, and there were crimson flames lingering on it. Every time Chan Xingyan used his magic to smash it, Yan Qinglian would feel a suffocating heat pressing down on her, causing her to feel extremely uncomfortable. Go, Yan Qinglian shouted. Like swinging a horsewhip, she swung the horsetail whisk slightly above her head and swung it towards Chan Xingyan. Dozens and even hundreds of tiny lightning bolts flew towards Chan Xingyan. Chan Xingyan hated these tiny lightning bolts the most. He waved his hand and a thin flame flew out, forming a wall of fire. He wanted to block the lightning bolts in front of him, but the magic that he condensed from his magic power couldn't compare to the lightning bolts of the magic tool. After dozens of lightning bolts passed, the wall of fire immediately disappeared without a trace. Chapter 1872. Quick, Chan Xingyan had no choice but to throw out the stone in his hand. The raging flames and the aura of the artifact destroyed all the lightning. However, just as Chan Xingyan waved his hand and was about to retrieve the stone, he saw a weak flash of lightning under the stone. It quickly and violently charged into Chan Xingyan's arms. Oh no! Chan Xingyan's spiritual will swept across, and he immediately knew that this lightning wasn't real lightning. It was a strand of Yan Qinglian's horsetail whisk. Yan Qinglian had concealed it within the lightning and shot it over, avoiding his defenses. Chan Xingyan did not dare to be careless and hurriedly activated his spiritual power, activating the defense around his body. With a Z sound, lightning flashed under Chan Xingyan's armpit, and then the light was extinguished. That lightning actually broke through his defense and shot straight into his Taoist robe. Ouch! Chan Xingyan forcefully twisted his waist and dodged the lightning. There was already a scratch on his Taoist robe. How dare you! Chan Xingyan was enraged. The mana in his body surged, and the rock in his hand instantly lit up with a few feet of fire. A wave of hot air once again filled the entire area. Go! Following his angry roar, that rock flew towards Yan Qinglian like a shooting star. Seeing the power of Chan Xingyan's artifact increase, Yan Qinglian's horsetail whisk did not dare to meet it head-on. Her figure suddenly flew away, and actually used the hibernating lightning escape to dodge to the side. This dodge was so fast that it shocked Chan Xingyan. Lightning escape? He could not help but shout out. I want to see if your lightning escape is faster or eyes flowing fire is faster. Chan Xingyan pointed his finger and the artifact, flowing fire, followed behind Yan Qinglian like a shadow. It did not stop attacking. Haha, senior brother, let I help you vent your anger. Compared to Chan Xingyan's stalemate, Yu Miao seemed to be having a much easier time. He even had the upper hand. After all, Xiang Yang's mana was much weaker than Yu Miao's, and it was a contest of immortal treasures. Naturally, Xiang Yang couldn't win. Seeing that Qian Xingyan was defeated by Yan Qinglian, Yu Miao laughed heartily and tossed the alms bowl into the air. As it spun, the mouth of the alms bowl was pointed downwards and a ray of light like water sprayed down like a waterfall. Before the ray of light landed, the sharp spirit qi rushed towards Xiang Yang like a sharp knife. Xiang Yang brandished his spear, and lightning danced in front of the water light. However, it only lasted for a moment before it was broken through by the water light. Xiang Yang was horrified, and his figure rapidly retreated in the direction of Xiaohua, while Xue was already some distance away from Xiaohua. Why are you still here? Retreat. When Xiang Yang saw that Xiaohua was still behind him, he unconsciously became furious and berated him. However, when he berated Xiaohua, there was actually a strange expression on his face. Damn it, eldest senior brother. Can't you act a little better? Don't let others see through you. Xiaohua saw the strange expression on Xiang Yang's face and couldn't help but complain. However, at the same time, he gave Xiang Yang a thumbs up. He had been standing still all this time because he wanted Xiang Yang to lure Yu Miao to his side. Since you don't want to leave, then don't leave. When Yu Miao saw Xiaohua's realistic fear, he unconsciously felt great. He didn't hold back any of the mana in his body and poured it all into the alms bowl's immortal treasure. Don't. When Xiaohua saw the water light rushing towards him, he waved his hands and made a big fuss. The dozens of fireball talismans in his hand had already been thrown out. Rumble, rumble, rumble. A series of loud noises rang out, blocking the water light, the alms bowl and Yu Miao. When he saw Xiaohua throw out the fireball talismans, Yu Miao almost laughed out loud. This was precisely the yellow talisman that qi refining cultivators were most adept at. It was also the natural method to restrain his water-type magic tool. However, could yellow talismans compare to magic tools? However, when he saw the dozens of fireball talismans, although disorderly, there was an order to them. It was as if they were controlled by divine sense. Yu Miao couldn't help but feel strange in his heart. However, just as this strange thought arose, the numerous fireball talismans collided with each other and exploded around his body. The might of those top-grade fireballs really scared him. Damn it, Imperial Thunder Sect's disciples are really rich and overbearing. Yu Miao couldn't help but curse. Unfortunately, before he could finish cursing, he saw a faint silhouette rush in front of him amidst the chaos caused by the exploding fireballs. Lightning evasion? This guy's mana isn't good, but he can actually use lightning evasion? Ouch. Yu Miao obviously thought that the silhouette was Xiang Yang. However, when he saw clearly, he couldn't help but be astonished and couldn't help but cry out. However, when he saw that Xiaohua was actually holding a worn-out spear shaft in his hand, he laughed again. Are you kidding me? Senior martial brother uses a long spear. This junior martial brother? How could it be worn out? He's using a spear shaft. Soon after, he unhurriedly hooked his finger. From the distant alms bowl, a stream of water light flew over. In the instant Xiaohua extended his hand to stab the spear shaft, a shield appeared in front of him. However, before he could peacefully look for Xiang Yang's traces, he heard a crisp kacha sound. That shield was unexpectedly shattered by Xiaohua's spear, and specks of water light scattered in all directions. Demonic tool? Only now did Yu Miao see the true appearance of the demonic spear shaft. He couldn't help but be greatly alarmed. He hurriedly waved his hand, and a protective spell immediately blocked the front of the demonic spear shaft. At the same time, he hurriedly released the pressure of the foundation establishment stage in an attempt to firmly suppress Xiaohua. Unfortunately, at this time, Xiaohua was already close to him. Xiaohua smiled strangely and slightly opened his mouth. A stream of green and red brilliance was spat out from his mouth. Although his body was already unable to move under the pressure, once the execution dream came out, an immeasurable amount of karmic fire power was born. That kind of terrifying throbbing far surpassed the power of the pressure. Yu Miao's heart shrank, and at the same time his mana also stagnated. In the end, Yu Miao was still a middle foundation establishment stage cultivator. He hurriedly used the 5-element sex secret technique and barely managed to circulate his mana. His body wanted to retreat, but no matter how fast he was, he couldn't be faster than the execution dream flying sword. He could only see a brilliance flickering at Yu Miao's throat. The green and red sword light entered, and then disappeared without a trace. Following that, Yu Miao's corpse fell into the air, and that Om's bowl-like magic tool also stopped in midair. Senior brother? Seeing that Yu Miao had actually fallen, Chan Xingyan almost didn't dare to believe his eyes. Although Xiaohua's attack was not as fast as lightning, it was still completed in a few breaths. Chan Xingyan only saw Xiaohua throw out the fireball talisman in a panic. Then, when the flames of the fireball dissipated, Xiaohua was already in front of Yu Miao. Following that, Yu Miao fell from midair. As for how he died, Chan Xingyan didn't even see it clearly. Fellow Taoist, don't leave either. Yan Qinglian was overjoyed. She didn't hold back on the horsetail whisk in her hand. 10 slender lightning bolts split into 4 and shot towards Chan Xingyan from different angles. You want to keep this Taoist here? Don't even think about it. Chan Xingyan didn't continue to fight. He once again activated his mana, and the flowing fire was like a huge fireball. It instantly extinguished the lightning bolts, and a blank space appeared. Chan Xingyan didn't say another word. His body flew out of the blank space and flew towards the direction of the Flame Forest Mountains. Haha, you actually want to compete with my Imperial Thunder Sect's disciple in flying. Yan Qinglian laughed loudly. She used the hibernating thunder escape technique and caught up to Chan Xingyan in an instant. Her horsetail whisk struck out again. Go! Chan Xingyan didn't continue to fight. He still used the same move. The flowing fire retreated and blocked Yan Qinglian. However, just as he was about to increase his speed again, he suddenly realized that right in front of him, the Qi refinement disciple who killed his senior brother was actually blocking his path. How did he get here? Chan Xingyan was shocked. Without hesitation, he released his aura. You really don't have to leave, Xiaohua said sincerely, following which his physical body trembled. A 200-foot phoenix celestial body appeared above his head, completely blocking the aura. At this moment, the phoenix celestial body was slightly different from before. Previously, there was a cold light in its phoenix eyes that looked down on the world. However, that cold light was completely emotionless. It was completely indifferent. At this moment, there was a trace of emotion in those phoenix eyes. It seemed to be mocking. Bloodline of the true spirit. Chan Xingyan was surprised. However, his movements weren't slow either. He hurriedly stretched out his hand, and a crimson-red message talisman flew out. The Flame Forest Mountains are nearby. Chan Xingyan had just laughed coldly when the same scene happened again. With a light rumble of thunder, Xiaohua, who was just in front of Chan Xingyan a moment ago, actually caught up with the message talisman and crushed it. No. No way. Chan Xingyan couldn't believe his eyes. Although the speed of the message talisman wasn't especially fast when it was first sent out, the reason why it was a message talisman was because the method of making it was special. It couldn't be easily intercepted by others unless the person's cultivation level was much higher than the person who sent it out. The person's cultivation level was also much higher than the person who sent it out. Go! Just as Chan Xingyan was surprised, Xiaohua hurriedly waved his hand. The cloud-suppressing seal instantly appeared from the space. Under the control of Xiaohua's spiritual power, a yellow light shone brightly like the moon. Waves of rumbling sounds could be heard from the cloud-suppressing seal. Magic? Magic treasure? At this moment, Chan Xingyan was in disbelief. He looked at Xiaohua with a strange gaze. His lightning escape was more profound than Yan Qinglian's and his spiritual power was more profound than his. Could he still be Yan Qinglian and Xiang Yang's junior brother? Even if he was their senior brother, he was still a novelist. Run. This was Chan Xingyan's only thought. But at this moment, the cloud-suppressing seal had already flown in front of him. A feeling that he couldn't escape was born in his heart. Go. Chan Xingyan couldn't suppress his fear. He used a secret technique to control his spiritual power, and tried his best to get rid of this feeling. At the same time, Lu Hua also tried his best to fly towards the cloud-suppressing seal. Pa, as if he was clapping his hands, Xiaohua used a spell. A cloud flew out from the cloud-suppressing seal, and flew towards Lu Hua. With a pung sound, the cloud landed on Lu Hua. The power of the Dharma treasure's mimicry immediately extinguished Lu Hua's flames. As for Lu Hua's original body, that rock, it could not break through the cloud. As the cloud drifted down, the rock also slowly fell. Chapter 1873. Pa Pa Pa. With another few sounds, the cloud-suppressing seal transformed into a few clouds that floated towards Chan Xingyan's head. Xiaohua's phoenix celestial body also let out a clear cry as it spread its wings and flew towards Chan Xingyan. Seeing that Xiaohua alone was able to fight against both Yan Qinglian and Xiangyang, Chan Xingyan couldn't help but panic. He clapped his hands and a dozen yellow talismans flew aimlessly in the air. His other hand quietly took out a transmission talisman and sent it in the opposite direction of Xiaohua. Just as he sent out the transmission talisman, his divine sense suddenly sensed that something was wrong behind him. Before he could send out the spell he hurriedly prepared, the dream executioner that killed Yu Yuemiao flew into Chan Xingyan's back. Chan Xingyan was like his senior brother Yu Yuemiao. His eyes were filled with disbelief and hatred as he fell from the sky. Let's go. Xiaohua saw that the crimson transmission talisman increase its speed and fly towards the flame forest mountains. He couldn't catch up and couldn't help but feel hatred. All of this was his meticulous plan, but he still couldn't stop the transmission talisman. Naturally, he couldn't stop the golden core stage Xiangmin from chasing after him. How could he not be angry? Let's go. Xiangyang, Yan Qinglian, and Shueshue didn't have the time to be shocked by Xiaohua's bravery and gave them a new understanding of him. They hurriedly activated their flying techniques and flew toward Shihuang town. Xiaohua seemed to have a card up his sleeve. With a wave of his hand, flowing fire and the alms bowl were stored in his space. He also took Yu Yuemiao and Chan Xingyan's storage pouches. Then he shot out a few fireballs and destroyed their corpses. Only then did he activate the hibernating thunder escape technique and catch up to Xiangyang and the rest. Xiangyang naturally saw what Xiaohua was doing, but he didn't have time to ask. He only focused on activating his transcendence energy, wanting to fly to Shihuang town before Xiangmin arrived. Unfortunately, not to mention that Shueshue and Yan Qinglian's hibernating thunder escape had just reached the entry level. Even if Xiangyang used all of his magic power, his speed was still insufficient. Just as Xiaohua frowned and wanted to stop the three of them so that he could use the bright thunder escape to fly away, the Buddhist sensed that Xiaohua released from far away made a discovery. Stop! Xiaohua said decisively. What's wrong? Xiangyang was stunned, but he began to slow down. Quick, let's fly in reverse. Xiaohua immediately ordered. Without waiting for the three of them to come to their senses, he slowed down again. With a clap of his hand, a flight talisman was placed on his body. Why? Why is that? Xiangyang was completely stunned. Husband, don't speak. Fly with junior brother Xiao. Yan Qinglian naturally didn't understand, but she knew that Xiaohua's actions were reasonable. She hurriedly turned around and flew in front of Xiaohua using an ordinary flight technique. Xiangyang rubbed his head and watched as Shueshue flew to Xiaohua's side unswervingly. At the same time, he threw out a flying talisman and had no choice but to fly in front of Xiaohua and the others. Sure enough, in just a short moment, a golden core cultivator's divine sense swept past Xiaohua and the others, and his divine sense was filled with rage. Xiangyang and the others knew that Xiangmin had arrived. They did not dare to delay and immediately stopped in midair, waiting for Xiangmin's arrival. In the time it took to brew a cup of tea, Xiangmin flew over at an extremely fast speed. Seeing Xiangmin's flushed little face and eyes that were about to spit fire, Xiangyang's heart almost jumped out of his chest. Greetings, Senior Xiang. Xiangyang hurriedly bowed again, and Yan Qinglian and the others followed suit. Did you come from Shihuang town? Xiangmin's figure suddenly stopped as she asked coldly. Oh yes. Xiangyang instantly understood what Xiaohua was thinking, and he hurriedly bowed and replied. Junior wants to bring these two junior brothers to Flame Forest Swamp to gain experience. I've just made some preparations in West Huang Town, and we're heading to Flame Forest Swamp. Did you see any golden core cultivators or 3 or 4 cultivators above the middle stage of Foundation establishment rushing to Shihuang Town in front of I? Xiang Min asked sharply. Senior Xiang, please no. Junior and the others have not seen any cultivators on our way here. Xiang Yang said respectfully. Hearing that, Xiang Min did not say anything else and flicked her sleeves and flew in another direction. Seeing that Xiang Min's back was getting further and further away, Xiang Yang and the other 2 still did not dare to speak. However, their eyes were filled with admiration. If it wasn't for great wisdom and great ability, who would dare to turn around and face the angry gold core cultivator, when they knew that they had just killed the disciple of the gold core cultivator? Furthermore, at this critical moment, Chan Xingyan had hurriedly sent out a transmission talisman, and did not explain the situation in detail. Only when Xiang Min was far away did Xiang Yang dare to send a voice transmission. Junior brother Xiao, what should we do? Continue to Flame Forest Swamp? According to Xiang Yang's thinking, since he had already seen Xiang Min and said that they were going to Flame Forest Swamp, if he did not go, it would mean that he had a guilty conscience. He could only go and show that he did not know what was going on ahead. Unexpectedly, Xiaohua opened his mouth and said, Eldest senior brother, Senior Xiang warned us long ago. We wanted to get lucky and go to Flame Forest Marsh to gain experience, but we were still discovered by Senior Xiang. Fortunately, he was kind and didn't say anything. However, this is also a warning. We should obediently return. Xiang Yang was shocked. Of course, Xiang Min had already warned them. Just now he was in a hurry and probably did not think about it. If they could not find the person, how could he not be angry with them? Wasn't this an excuse? If they did not leave now, when would they? Although they did not know what Xiaohua had discovered, Xiang Yang smiled bitterly and waved his hand seriously. Forget it. We also feel that we should turn back. When Martial Uncle Zhenyi comes, we'll talk about it again. The words Martial Uncle Zhenyi were heavily emphasized. Of course, Xiang Min was a golden core cultivator. Who knew if he had left any clues? Who knew if he could hear the words of the 4 people? Everything was just an act. We will listen to eldest senior brother's instructions. Xiaohua replied respectfully. Soon after, the 3 of them turned around and flew toward Shihuang Town. At this time, Xiaohua and the others did not dare to reveal too much of their speed. They only dared to fly at about the same speed as before. Seeing that Shihuang Town was not far away, Xiaohua and the others were about to reveal victorious smiles on their faces. Xiang Min's divine sense once again caught up to them, and a cold and indifferent voice was transmitted over. You all stop right there. This is bad. Xiaohua's expression immediately changed. He knew that something was wrong. Xiaohua looked around, his heart filled with bitterness. If he was alone, he would definitely flee in panic. After all, he had entered Shihuang Town's transportation array. The outside world was so big that he could be transported anywhere. Although Xiang Min had left, he definitely would not do anything to the disciples of Yenyuan City. But now? Xiaohua could only stand there with his hands by his side. He had no other thoughts. Chapter 1874. Xiang Yang was also a little uneasy. He looked at Yin Qinglian and Xiaohua, nodded slightly, and also stood in the air. Not long after, Xiang Min flew over with a gloomy expression. He stared at Xiang Yang with a sharp gaze. Senior Xiang, do you have any instructions? Xiang Yang was afraid that Xiang Min would suddenly attack, so he quickly bowed and said, Junior remembered Senior's instructions and didn't dare to go forward. I want to return to Shihuang Town and wait for my martial uncle. Your martial uncle? Which one? Xiang Min frowned and asked. Oh, it's my Thunderclap Palace's martial uncle Zhenyi. He'll be here soon. Xiang Yang said respectfully. Xiang Min's eyes narrowed as if he was measuring the authenticity of Xiang Yang's words. After the time it took to drink a cup of tea, Xiang Min said, Xiang Yang, have you seen I's 2 disciples? Xiang Yang frowned and thought for a moment, then smiled apologetically and said, Are they the 2 fellow Taoists who went through the teleportation formation with Senior that day? Yes, Xiang Min nodded. Xiang Yang shook his head and said, Senior Xiang, I haven't seen the two fellow Taoists since Junior left through the teleportation formation. Do you dare to swear a heart oath? Xiang Min said coldly. Xiang Yang smiled without hesitation and said, Of course I can. However, Senior Xiang and the two fellow Taoists, my two disciples sent out a message talisman, but they didn't say anything. Furthermore, I searched for the place where the message talisman was sent from, but I didn't see anything. When I tried to send out another message talisman, the message talisman couldn't be sent out. The more Xiang Min spoke, the angrier she became. Within a radius of several hundred miles, there isn't a fifth person other than the four of you. As he spoke, Xiang Min's face revealed a sinister grin. He waved his sleeves and formed a seal with both hands. A huge suction force formed from his hands and enveloped the four people. The suction force formed a confinement force, trying to imprison Xiang Yang and the others. Damn it, why do I ask so much? Why bother swearing a heart oath? Just search their souls or kill them. Xiang Min said coldly as he lowered his hand. Senior Xiang. Xiang Yang was shocked. He slapped his hand and took out the long spear from his storage bag. He pointed it at the sky, wanting to block the spell. Yan Qinglian's expression changed as well. She also took out her Dharma artifact, wanting to block the spell. However, both of them were only at the mid-stage of the Foundation establishment stage. Even with their magical weapons, they were no match for Xiang Min. Xiang Min's confinement technique fell upon them and extinguished all the lightning. Golden Core cultivators, sure enough, their magic power is unfathomable. Xiaohua felt that the heaven and earth spiritual qi around him seemed to have been sucked dry, and he couldn't use any spells. He couldn't help but be greatly shocked. Although his current transcendence energy is already comparable to a late-stage Foundation establishment cultivator, after all, there is still a gap between true essence and true qi. Furthermore, the true essence of a late-stage Foundation establishment cultivator and the golden core of an Aurus core stage cultivator have an intrinsic difference. Looking at it this way, if Xiaohua goes against Xiang Min, there is absolutely no way he can win. What should I do? Xiaohua's mind spun rapidly. He raised his hand, wanting to slap his forehead and use whatever cloud-suppressing seal, whatever execution dream. He himself understood that this Xiang Min has always been unbridled. Just now, he even wanted to make a heart oath to Xiang Yang. After a few words, he wanted to directly search their souls. Perhaps after imprisoning the four of them, he wouldn't even search their souls and directly kill them. Yu Yue Miao and Chan Xingyan were his own handiwork. There is absolutely no reason for his senior brother and the others to be implicated. However, just as Xiaohua raised his head, a divine sense swept over from afar. That Xiang Min was also startled and swept his divine sense over. Like I said, without a golden core cultivator, how could my two disciples be killed so easily? Xiang Min's expression was sinister. His figure flew away, abandoning Xiaohua and the others, and flew towards the place where the divine sense swept over. However, although Xiang Min's person left, the confinement technique did not disappear. Xiaohua and the others were immediately confined. Without the support of transcendence energy, the four of them fell from the sky like rocks. Fortunately, the four of them had ulterior motives and did not fly high. Although the ground was full of rocks, they did not suffer too much damage. Just as Xiaohua's body landed on the ground, he heard a rumbling sound from afar. A multicolored brilliance shone, and there was also the continuous rumbling of thunder. Could it be that martial uncle Zhenyi has come? Hearing the familiar sound of thunder and lightning, Xiang Yang's face unconsciously revealed a happy expression. Yan Qinglian also nodded. Listening to the sound of magic and the lingering thunder and lightning, it should be my Imperial Thunder Sect's lightning magic. Didn't Senior Xiang also say that? The one who came as a golden core cultivator. It should be martial uncle Zhenyi without a doubt. Xiaohua was lying on the ground, looking like a dog eating shit. He was in a rather sorry state. Shui, on the other hand, was looking at him with bright eyes. What's there to look at? Xiaohua said with a smile. Is there a flower growing on my face? Hee, naturally there is a flower growing on your face. A Xiaohua, a little dog-tail flower. Shui's mouth slightly curled up, and her eyes revealed a mischievous look as she said with a smile. Your Langjun is a Xiaohua. Xiaohua's heart swayed, and he said with a smile. However, just as these words left his mouth, there was a boom in his mind, and there was a burst of clear cry. Xiaohua, Xiaohua, Xiaohua. I seem to be called Xiaohua? Shameless, Shui spat and said. You are a big man. What kind of flower is that? Only a woman like me, who is made of water, is a flower, but Xiaohua was in a daze. How could he hear it? Shui saw that Xiaohua ignored her, and anxiously said, Darling Xiao, darling Xiao. Xiaohua came back to his senses with a somewhat bitter smile. Looking at Shui's anxious face, he said, I know. I fell from an ox, and you are that flower. What do you mean? What did you fall from an ox? Shui was stunned. She obviously didn't know. At this time, Xiang Yang's heart had already calmed down, but his face was still facing Xiaohua, and he said loudly, There is a saying in the secular world, a flower inserted in cow dung. Junior sister Shui, I'm afraid you haven't heard of it before. Ha ha ha, Shui heard and laughed loudly. Her fragrant breath blew on Xiaohua's face, making Xiaohua feel quite comfortable. Speaking of which, junior brother Xiao, you are very proficient in the secular world. Xiang Yang said with a smile. This is also what I heard when I was young, and was practicing martial arts with a martial master. Hee, senior brother. I also didn't expect that your martial arts are so good. Only now did Xiaohua have time to think about Xiang Yang's martial arts. Last time when you exchanged pointers with me, you really went easy on me. However, what made Xiaohua puzzled was that Xiang Yang didn't say anything, and didn't answer a single word. Immediately, Xiaohua realized that Xiang Yang was extremely unwilling to remember the past. Perhaps there were some sad past events. Thinking about how Xiang Yang never asked him about the situation when he was a rogue cultivator, Xiaohua was also speechless. Hee, senior brother, you're right. Senior Xiang's two disciples were Foundation Establishment middle stage cultivators, and they were actually killed in an instant. Which senior? Such a powerful person? It really makes me envious. I really don't know when I can cultivate to the Jindan realm. Xiaohua quickly changed the topic. When Xiaohua's words came out, not to mention Shui who was originally attached to Xiaohua, even the heartbroken Xiang Yang was very happy in his heart. Yin Qinglian sighed. Junior brother Xiao, don't be distracted. The key for you now is Foundation Establishment. Only by Foundation Establishment can you have a chance to peek into the Jindan realm. Without Foundation Establishment, everything is just empty talk. Yin Qinglian's voice was deliberately rough, as if she was helpless. Senior sister, you don't need to use master to pressure me. Xiaohua replied with a bitter smile, almost touching his nose with his hand. He will never reach Foundation Establishment. Xiang Min's cold voice sounded, and a pressure that made Xiaohua feel suffocated pressed on the four people at the same time. Xiaohua was shocked. At this moment, another pressure blocked Xiang Min, and a faint voice sounded. Fellow Daoist Xiang, they are all eyes juniors. How can you make things difficult for them? Soon after, Xiaohua felt his body lighten. Xiang Min's confinement technique was broken. Xiaohua flipped over and stood up. He flicked the gravel off his body and cried out in surprise, Grandmaster Zhen, you've finally come. Useless things. Zhen Ye's Taoist robe was a bit messy, but he still scolded without any trace of politeness. 2 Middle Foundation Establishment disciples, 2 Late Qi Refinement disciples. You 4 Imperial Thunder Sect disciples can't even withstand a single move from the 5 Elements Sect's Jindan Realm cultivators. You've really lost face for my thunderous palace. When we return to Imperial Thunder Sect, I'll punish you with 20 years of seclusion. Xiaohua was overjoyed in his heart, and with a pitiful appearance he looked at Xiang Min timidly and said in a low voice, Grandmaster Zhen, can I be punished with 200 years of seclusion? At this moment, Xiang Yang recovered his honest appearance, and didn't have Xiaohua's unruliness. He knew that Zhen Yi was mocking Xiang Min, but he still looked at Xiaohua in confusion. Oh, why? Obviously, Zhen Yi was also shocked and asked curiously. I'm afraid I'll have to cultivate for another 200 years, before I can reach Senior Xiang's cultivation. Xiaohua stammered, and said hesitantly. Zhenyi came to his senses and laughed loudly. Ha 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 ha, Xiangyang, Yanqinglian, and Shueshue wanted to laugh, but they didn't dare to. If they didn't laugh, they couldn't hold it in. Looking at them like that was really hard to bear. Xiang Min's previously tidy hair was now a bit messy, and her face was already ashen. Her small face was taut, and she sneered. Fellow Taoist Jin, your Imperial Thunder Sect's disciple's cultivation isn't good, but his mouth is quite powerful. This is the first time I've seen a cultivator who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Ha ha ha, Zhenyi laughed and said. These are my Imperial Thunder Sect's disciples. Not knowing the immensity of heaven and earth has always been their right. My Imperial Thunder Sect has plenty of disciples like this, and you can see as many as you want. Humph, Xiangmin flung her sleeves and sneered. Fellow Taoist Jin, look after your disciples well. I'm going to find and kill that hateful murderer. If you're interested in my suggestion just now, you can send me a summoning talisman. I will naturally look after these 4 disciples well, and not let them be killed for no reason. Zhenyi had a smile on his face. I still need to carefully consider fellow Taoist's suggestion. If possible, I'll send you a summoning talisman. Farewell. Xiangmin said, then turned around and left without cupping her hands. Chapter 1875. I won't see you off. Zhenyi also replied. After Xiangmin's figure disappeared, Xiangyang and Yanqinglian walked forward and bowed. Greetings, Martial Uncle Zhenyi. If it weren't for Martial Uncle's arrival, we would have died in the hands of this bastard. Get up. Zhenyi waved his sleeves and let the 2 of them get up. His gaze quickly turned to Xiaohua. Xiaohua and Shueshue also hurriedly went forward to make up for it. Zhenyi waved his sleeves and smiled. Get up. I was in seclusion to refine pills. Although your message had already reached the sect, I told the boy not to receive any of your messages. Fortunately, when I saw the message, I immediately rushed over. Hehe, I really didn't expect that you guys would actually meet Xiangmin. That's right, Grandmaster Zhen, it's all thanks to you coming. Juniors and the others were inexplicably restrained by Senior Xiang. We really don't know what's going on. Xiaohua was so innocent, he was even more of a virgin than a pure virgin. And this matter has nothing to do with you guys. Zhenyi didn't want to say anything more. He waved his hand and said, you guys should quickly leave Flame Forest Marsh. This place is no longer suitable for you to gain experience. Martial Ancestor Zhen. Xiaohua hurriedly said. Zhenyi clearly misunderstood Xiaohua and said with a smile, Oh Xiaohua, you passed the information about the lightning beast to this old man. This old man has already discussed it with Xiangmin. There are indeed lightning beasts in this flame forest swamp. You have already completed the task this old man entrusted to you. This old man will not punish you for the previous matters. Xiaohua cupped his hands and said, Martial Ancestor Zhen is fair in rewards and punishments. However, I still have something I want to discuss with Martial Ancestor Zhen. Oh. Zhenyi frowned and said, What else do you want? Xiaohua glanced at the gloomy Xiangyang and Yanqinglian, then told Zhenyi about Xiangyang's matter. Ignorant child. Zhenyi sneered and said, Using the lightning beast's inner core to repair the damaged foundation of the lightning tribulation is just a legend. The repair method you know is just a conjecture created by the lightning-controlling sect's ancestors. It hasn't been proven. You guys actually used the incomparably precious lightning beast's inner core to do this experiment. This really makes me speechless. Xiangyang's expression became even more gloomy. Xiaohua smiled apologetically and said, Since it was created by the seniors of our sect, there must be a reason for it. If we don't try it, how can we know it won't work? In eldest senior brother's situation, this is the only way. Hehe, I'll give it a try. Zhenyi said indifferently. That's easy for you to say. It's as if the Thunder Beast's inner core is a spirit stone. Xiaohua, do you know what this Thunder Beast's inner core means to this old man? To the cultivators of my Imperial Thunder sect? To the Golden Core cultivators? Xiaohua continued to smile apologetically. Haha, this junior naturally knows that this item is extremely precious to Grandmaster, But to this junior's eldest senior brother, it involves his lifespan. This junior has no choice but to be bold and speak. Xiangyang. In this old man's opinion, it's fine not to use the lightning beast's inner core. Zhenyi flicked his sleeves and said, "This old man saved all of you from Xiangmin's hands, and will send all of you to Western Huangtown's transportation array in a while. This can also be considered as fulfilling my duties as your master." This old man. "I'm afraid I can't agree to your request for no reason." Zhenye's words were extremely reasonable. Although the lightning beast's inner core involved Xiangyang's lifespan, Xiangyang wasn't Zhenye's disciple after all. Xiangyang's life and death really had nothing to do with him. Zhenyi didn't even bring his own trusted disciples with him this time, so he naturally had the intention to obtain the lightning beast's inner core. It could be seen how important this inner core was to him. How could he possibly share some with Xiangyang? Even a method to repair one's Dao foundation without any basis? Grandmaster Zhen, this junior's eldest senior brother, only needs a little bit. Xiaohua stretched out his little finger and gestured. Xiaohua. Zhenyi was slightly angry. This old man can see that you have a promising talent that suits this old man's taste. That's why I said a few words to you. Why do you have no sense of propriety? Even if your master is helpless, he still wouldn't dare to act so rashly. Junior brother Xiao. Xiangyang was somewhat discouraged and said in a low voice, "We should leave Flame Forest Marsh. We shouldn't delay Marshal Uncle Zhen's matter." Xiaohua looked at his exceptionally loyal eldest senior brother and said with a smile, "Eldest senior brother, don't be anxious. Since you're this junior's eldest senior brother, you'll be this junior's eldest senior brother for the rest of my life. This junior won't dare to slack off in the slightest for eldest senior brother." Xiangyang was admittedly a middle-stage foundation establishment cultivator, but the rims of his eyes instantly turned red. "Xiaohua, this old man knows that you have deep feelings. These words have already been said in this old man's immortal's cave several years ago." Zhenyi sighed. "But this lightning beast's inner core is really important to this old man. This old man can't subdue the lightning beast by himself. Didn't you see? Xiangmin is also eyeing it covetously. Also, to tell you the truth, this old man has made an appointment with several other fellow Taoists. This old man still doesn't know how much I can get, so how can I promise you?" Hee Grandmaster Zhen, how can this junior make things difficult for Grandmaster? Xiaohua had already thought it through. He said with a smile, "If I can't do something for Grandmaster, how could I dare to say so much to Grandmaster?" "Oh, what do you mean?" Zhenyi was slightly surprised, but soon after he asked with interest. Xiaohua waved his hand and took out the sun-moon corona from the space. He said with an apologetic smile, "Grandmaster, please take a look. This is a magic tool that this junior obtained. It can detect the fire ape's movements. Presumably, Grandmaster already knows that the lightning beast is together with the fire ape. Relying on this magic tool, this junior can point out the lightning beast's movements to Grandmaster." "Is that so?" Zhenyi said with a smile. "Tell this old man, where is the fire ape right now?" Xiaohua said with embarrassment, "This magic tool also needs to be within a certain range. Only then will it be effective. If this old man refines this magic tool, then the range, won't it be even larger?" Zhenyi said with a soft smile. Xiaohua bit his lips. Looking at Zhenyi's calm expression, he said with an apologetic smile, "This junior doesn't know. Junior's refinement method can disappear at any time." "Will you have the opportunity to make the refinement method disappear?" Zhenyi's voice was still calm. Something like drawing water with a bamboo basket. Grandmaster probably won't try." Xiaohua glanced at Xiangyang and the others, whose expressions changed slightly, and said calmly, "Moreover, will Grandmaster give up the opportunity to let my Imperial Thunder sect have a larger share of the lightning beast's inner cores? Besides, maybe my eldest senior brother won't even need those inner cores?" Zhenyi looked at Xiaohua as if he wanted to see through him. Xiaohua met Zhenyi's gaze and didn't seem to avoid it. He still held the sun-moon corona in his hand, as if he wasn't afraid of Zhenyi snatching it. The place was cold and desolate. Only the mountain wind was still blowing. Myriad Thunder Valley is fortunate to have a disciple like you. After a long while, Zhenyi praised. Many thanks for Grandmaster's help. Xiaohua was overjoyed and bowed in thanks. All of you follow this old man. Zhenyi didn't say anything else. He waved his hand and flew up. Chapter 1876. Xiaohua nodded at Xiangyang. Xiangyang also smiled, glanced at Yin Qinglian, and flew up first. Then Yin Qinglian, Xiaohua, and Shui also flew away. Zhenye's direction was Flame Forest Swamp, but after flying for a while, he turned back and looked at Xiaohua, who was flying behind Xiangyang and Yin Qinglian, and said in a low voice, "Come here." "Yes, may I know why Grandmaster called for this disciple?" Xiaohua didn't dare to be negligent. He flew past Xiangyang and smiled apologetically. "It's like this," Zhenyi said indifferently. "A few years ago, it's already been more than 10 years, right? When you first entered my Imperial Thunder Sect, and made a mistake in the Eastern Ridge, I learned about the lightning beast from a fellow Taoist I was on good terms with. I made an appointment with a few Aurus Core cultivators to search for the lightning beast's whereabouts. Unfortunately, because of you, I wasn't able to go, and those fellow Taoists didn't look for me again. When I received your message, I immediately sent a message to those fellow Taoists, and one of them replied to me. They searched for the lightning beast but failed, and more than half of them died. This time, since I'm leading the search for the lightning beast, I naturally have to invite a few more friends to have some confidence. Previously, Xiangmin's goal wasn't the lightning beast, but the fire ape. Moreover, he also invited a few fellow Taoists. He suggested that we work together and divide the cores of the fire ape and the thunder beast equally. This way, he would be able to obtain the thunder beast's core for no reason. And I have no use for the fire ape's core at all. Therefore, I wasn't willing to work together with him. But the heavens are playing with us. Zhenyi smiled bitterly. That fire ape was actually together with the lightning beast. But it's also strange, how can these two kinds of spirit beasts be together? However, now that I think about it, it's because these two kinds of spirit beasts can be together that I can borrow your strength to get an extra 10%. Zhenyi mocked himself. The fire ape's core that you can get an extra share is mine, and I won't give it to you. Moreover, if Xiangyang can't finish using the lightning beast's core, you must also give it to me. Of course, I'll earn this share for you in front of everyone. This can also be considered a reward. Great, Xiaohua said with a smile. Everything is according to Grandmaster's instructions. Junior just wants to ask for a bit of the lightning beast's inner core for eldest senior brother. Good. It's good that you understand. Listen to this old man's arrangement. Zhenyi nodded. However, he seemed to have thought of something and said, "Moreover, the lightning beast and the fire ape are both at the gold core stage. When we subdued the lightning beast last time, a gold core stage fellow Taoist fell. This time, the situation is even more serious than before. I can't guarantee your safety. If anything happens to you, I won't take responsibility." This, Xiaohua laughed apologetically. "Grandmaster, please wait a moment." Xiaohua hurriedly slowed down and discussed with Xiangyang and the others. In Xiaohua's opinion, the three of them didn't need to go. He only needed to accompany Zhenyi. Unexpectedly, as soon as he spoke, Xiangyang shook his head and said, "Junior brother Zhao's words are wrong. Since this is my matter, how can I let you take the risk alone? If you don't let me go, then don't go either." Yin Qinglian smiled and said, "My cultivation is higher than your eldest senior brother's. Since he can go, I can go too." Shui was even more resolute. "Wherever you go, I will follow." Sai, these words were not inferior to Fairy Hong Xia's. "Since you have decided, I will go with you." "Forget it." Before Xiaohua could say anything, Zhenyi sighed. He clapped his hands and took out 2 talismans, handing them to Xiaohua and said, "These are the escape talismans that this old man obtained. When you activate your transcendence energy, you can move several hundred feet in a short time. As for how far you can go, it all depends on your cultivation. This old man originally used them to protect himself. You and your fellow senior brothers have such deep feelings for each other. This old man is also moved. However, this old man only has these two. As for who uses them and who doesn't, it's up to you. Many thanks, Grandmaster. Xiaohua laughed and scratched his head. This is really too easy to distribute. With a flip of his hand, Xiangyang and Shueshui each had one. Shueshui wouldn't let Xiaohua worry because of her shallow cultivation, so she naturally took it. Xiangyang also looked at Yan Qinglian's gaze and smiled as he received it. Damn it, you fellow senior brothers are really strange. He still wanted to see how the four of them would decline modestly. Zhen Yi helplessly shook his head. He couldn't understand the deep feelings and silent tacit understanding between Xiangyang and Yan Qinglian, as well as Xiaohua and Shueshui. Huh. Zhen Yi was shaking his head when he suddenly looked into the distance with a strange expression. What is it, Grandmaster? Xiaohua didn't release his divine sense and asked in a low voice. It's a bit strange. Zhen Yi slightly frowned and said, Let's go and take a look. Xiaohua and the others flew forward with Zhen Yi for a while, and saw the corpses of several cultivators in a low-lying mountainous area. At first glance, these corpses were similar to the corpses of the several dozen cultivators that Xiaohua and the others saw at the beginning. However, after Xiaohua's divine sense swept over them, he understood that although these cultivators had fatal wounds on their bodies or vital parts, there were no traces of their heads being clawed open by the fire ape. Grandmaster. Xiaohua was just about to speak when he thought about it. He hadn't been to the front, so how could he see the cultivators injured by the fire ape? He unconsciously stopped. What's wrong? Zhen Yi turned his head and said, Did you discover something? All right, Grandmaster knows, Shueshui said. Before Disciple entered the sect, Disciple came to Flame Forest Marsh. The fire ape is the most vicious and eats human brains as food. If these cultivators were injured by the fire ape, there would definitely be obvious traces. These cultivators. I'm afraid they weren't injured by the fire ape. And Disciple heard Junior Marshall's sister Shui mention this before, Xiaohua quickly said. Zhen Yi didn't doubt this and said in a low voice, Xiaohua, try and see if you can sense the fire ape's location. Grandmaster, please wait a moment. Xiaohua didn't dare to be negligent and took out the Sun Moon Corona. Under the urging of his magic power, the Sun Moon Corona emitted a brilliant light. After a moment, Xiaohua withdrew his magic power and shook his head. Disciple can't sense it. It shouldn't be nearby. And there's still some distance from here to Flame Forest Marsh. Usually, the spirit beasts that can move around are all low level and definitely wouldn't be so tyrannical. There's no lack of foundation establishment cultivators among these cultivators, so they wouldn't be so incompetent. Could it be that the spirit beasts of Flame Forest Marsh were driven out by the fire ape and lightning beast? Zhen Yi said with a slight frown. Grandmaster Zhen, these people's storage pouches are all gone. Xiaohua was obviously the first to discover this and shouted in extreme shock. Seeing Xiaohua reveal his true nature, Xiangyang was truly somewhat helpless. He glared at Xiaohua and then looked at Zhen Yi. But Zhen Yi merely nodded slightly. Either they were taken away by someone in passing, or they were killed by someone. Xiaohua said fiercely. Clearly, his speculation was leaning towards the former. Let's continue forward. Zhen Yi flicked his sleeves and flew away. Xiaohua looked somewhat unable to bear it. Another dozen or so small sparks flew out and burned these people's corpses. Oh. Xiaohua, you clearly have a guilty conscience from burning them. Could it be that you did it? Zhen Yi looked at the meddlesome Xiaohua and asked curiously. All right, Grandmaster understands. Xiaohua honestly told him about the secular world's matter of being buried for peace. He smiled apologetically and said, Disciple really can't bear to see innocent corpses exposed to the outside world. Admittedly, I've let down my parents and ancestors, but it's also inappropriate for them to be torn apart by those spirit beasts. It's better for them to return to dust and return to earth. What a bunch of nonsense. Zhen Yi shook his head, obviously extremely disapproving of Xiaohua's point of view. With this kind of heart, the path of cultivation won't last long. Hee. Xiaohua laughed and didn't say anything more. However, after flying towards the Flame Forest Marsh for the time it took to eat a meal, Xiaohua and the others once again encountered dead cultivators. However, The number of dead cultivators this time was a lot less, only a few. However, the storage pouches that Xiaohua was looking forward to were still missing. Strange, strange. Xiaohua almost stomped his feet. There's definitely something strange about this. But what was strange about it? Xiaohua looked again and again, but didn't discover anything. It was just that the storage pouches were missing. Let's go. Zhenyi didn't say anything further, and flew towards the Flame Forest Marsh again. At first, the Flame Forest Marsh was similar to what Xiaohua saw last time. It was filled with red gravel and rugged scarlet rock mountain ranges. However, as they flew further in, not only did it become hotter, but the spiritual energy of heaven and earth also gradually began to become tyrannical. Unstable spiritual energy existed from time to time, and there were even some areas that didn't have a trace of spiritual energy at all. Why is this situation similar to the Eastern Ridge Medicinal Garden from before? Xiaohua's eyes spun wildly. Could it be that there's another fire origin here? Soon after, Xiaohua had another idea in his mind. I found a fire origin, but I didn't make any progress in my cultivation. Although my bones have been tempered into a scarlet color, I still feel that it's not complete. What if I obtain another fire origin? Would it be beneficial to the light evasion technique? Xiaohua's thoughts were extravagant. The fire origin was an innate object. It was already pretty good that there was even a little bit of it on the Dawn Rain continent. How could there be a second one? Moreover, the 5 elemental origins might not necessarily exist on the Dawn Rain continent. Xiaohua still didn't understand the true meaning of the word origin. That's right, I've been practicing the Big Dipper Divine Fist all this time. It still feels like my bones are being tempered. I don't know what it should be like next, and what realm it should be. Xiaohua pondered again. What he didn't know was that as he practiced the Big Dipper Divine Fist every day, the flow that was still tempering his bones had already shown traces of orange within the scarlet red. That orange was originally somewhat similar to red. Even if he saw it with his own eyes, he might not be able to tell the difference. Xiaohua's mouth slightly curled as he was thinking. His body suddenly fell down. The magic power in his body actually froze, and he couldn't circulate it at all. Xiaohua was caught off guard, and was very flustered. However, just as he was about to fall to the ground, he felt his magic power flowing again. Not daring to be negligent, Xiaohua hurriedly flew back into the air. Martial ancestor Zhen this? With Zhenyi here, Xiaohua naturally humbly asked for guidance, even though he knew a little about the Flame Forest Marsh. This is where the Flame Forest Marsh is extremely strange. Zhenyi said. There are many places that not only don't have the slightest bit of spiritual energy of heaven and earth, even the magic power in the body can't be used. This gives many cultivators an extreme headache, especially cultivators below the Jindan stage. Chapter 1877. Xiaohua rolled his eyes and smiled apologetically. Why? You're not a golden core cultivator. How would you know? Zhenyi glanced at him and said, a golden core cultivator's true yuan comes from their golden core. Their magic power can be replenished by the true yuan flowing out from their golden core at any time. Naturally, they are not afraid of a place like this that instantly seals their magic power. This is also the reason why cultivators below the golden core stage rarely come to the inner layer of the flaming forest swamp. If you suddenly lose your magic power above the lava, do you think you'll live or die? This disciple understands. Xiaohua said respectfully. If it was this disciple, I'm afraid I'd be buried in the sea of fire. Therefore, Grandmaster, please take care of this disciple and the rest. Hehe, if you're afraid, just give that magic tool to this old man. Zhenyi raised his eyebrows and laughed. Xiaohua lowered his head and looked at the situation below him that was completely different from the outer layer of the flaming forest swamp. He did not reply. Zhenyi did not think it was strange. He smiled lightly and continued to fly forward. At this time, the sky above the flaming forest swamp was filled with rising steam and mist. It was like the surface of a boiling water, blocking everyone's vision. Furthermore, the ground below Xiaohua and the rest were no longer crimson red sand and mountains. Instead, It was replaced by fire lakes that were tens of zhang, hundreds of zhang, and even hundreds of zhang in size. These fire lakes were densely covered with dark brown magma. From time to time, bubbles of various sizes would surge out from the magma, emitting gurgling sounds as the magma flowed like water. In between the fire lakes, there were sharp stone pillars that stood erect like barbs, covering the entire ground. Those stone pillars were like trees in the forest. This flaming forest swamp really lived up to its name. Thinking back to how Kai Zhuoxia had explained to him with a smile on her face, Xiaohua could not help but feel a little sad. Her temperament was different from Fairy Hongxia's, and her appearance was similar. Xiaohua then thought back to the sweet moments he had with Fairy Hongxia. Xiaohua could not help but think to himself, I wonder how Li Zongbao is doing now. Looking at his situation, he seems to have seen through the ways of the world. Although his cultivation has improved, his temperament is... Boom. In the distance, there was a tall red mountain range in front of everyone. In front of the mountain range were several hundred zhang-wide fire lakes. Suddenly, a pillar of flame shot out from one of the fire lakes and soared high into the sky. Then it fell down like fireworks. When it fell down, some of the fire blocks had already condensed, and some were still in liquid form. The range of the fire was extremely large. After a long while, these things fell into the lake, splashing up a lot of lava. Hiss! Xiaohua sucked in a breath of cold air. He glanced at Xiangyang and said in a low voice, "Eldest senior brother, the pillar of fire in front of us that soars into the sky. Is it also one of the dangers of Flame Forest Marsh?" Xiangyang smiled bitterly and nodded. That's right. This fire pillar was born out of nowhere in the fire lake. Even if one's divine sense were to constantly scan the surface of the lake, one would not be able to detect it in advance. One can only rely on one's vigilance and defensive measures. This is really troublesome. Xiaohua secretly shook his head and looked at Zhen Yi. Zhen Yi did not say anything and continued to fly towards the fire pillar. In the time it took to eat a meal, Xiaohua had already arrived in front of the red mountain range with Zhen Yi. When they flew past the mountain range, Xiaohua saw an endless white fog in front of him. From time to time, there was also a sound similar to that of a cow mooing. Along with the mooing sound, there was also a bright light coming from the distance. It was clearly the same as the fire pillar that soared into the sky just now. Xiaohua carefully looked at the fire lake again. At this time, the fire lake was different from before. Not only was the area of the fire lake several times larger, the color of the lava was also much brighter. What shocked Xiaohua the most was that within the lava, there were actually many lively fire rats. Those fire rats were like small fish in the lake, swimming in the magma. Occasionally, a few of them would jump out and land on the stone pillars on the ground. The magma dripping from the fire rats' bodies dripped down like water droplets, condensing into dark brown beads, while the fire rats revealed their glossy fur. Good heavens, these fire mice are actually not afraid of the lava. Xiaohua's eyes lit up as he thought to himself, the fur of these fire mice must also be precious. Unfortunately, just as Xiaohua thought of this, the fire mice in the fire lake sensed the movements of Xiaohua and the others. Pairs of mouse eyes swept towards the mountain range. Immediately after, there was a series of tung-tung-tung sounds, and almost all of the fire mice drilled into the lava and disappeared. They were really as timid as mice. You all be careful. Take out any defensive yellow talismans or spirit talismans. Zhen Yi indifferently instructed and flew forward again, not even looking at the fire mice in the fire lake. Yes, this disciple understands. Xiangyang obviously also knew the dangers involved. He clapped his hands and took out several high-level defensive yellow talismans, handing them over to Xiaohua and the others. The myriad Thunder Valley was still relatively poor, and Xiangyang also didn't have any spirit talismans. Although Yan Qinglian knew how to refine spirit talismans, she didn't have the materials. Even the invisibility talisman could only be refined with Xiaohua's materials. Xiaohua also didn't say anything. He took the yellow talismans and slapped them on his body. Then he pulled Shui and flew forward with Zhen Yi. That's right, following behind a golden core cultivator, they definitely wouldn't suffer any losses. Unfortunately, just as they flew forward for the time it took to eat a meal, they heard a wung-wung sound coming from midair. Xiao Hua had just released his divine sense, when a kind of fluctuation even denser and stronger than his divine sense rushed over. It followed Xiao Hua's divine sense and rushed into his Naiwan palace. Xiao Hua was greatly shocked. The Buddha Sarira above his Naiwan palace immediately flashed with golden light, trying its best to resist this invading fluctuation. Humph! Zhen Yi coldly snorted. He flung his sleeve. An array of light flashed, blocking Xiao Hua and the others. That fluctuation was immediately blocked outside the light. Xiao Hua then heard Zhen Yi say, "These are fire bats. They are very sensitive to divine sense. You actually dared to use divine sense. As expected, the ignorant are fearless." Fire bats? Xiao Hua's face was slightly ashamed. When he looked as far as he could, sure enough, within the white fog, a red light flashed. A large scarlet cloud flew over, and within that cloud were fist-sized fire bats. Damn it, Xiao Hua was a bit ashamed and angry for his carelessness. He secretly said, "If I wasn't afraid of revealing my strength, would I be afraid of them? Not to mention the dream executioner. Even the cloud-suppressing seal can take care of them. Let's go. These fire bats are only second-rank spiritual beasts. If they weren't able to attack divine sense, they would be just like fire mice. As long as you don't release your divine sense, they won't be able to hurt you." Zhen Yi saw Xiao Hua's unwillingness and said with a smile. His figure didn't stop at all, and he rushed into the group of fire bats. Sure enough, those fire bats repeatedly attacked the light surrounding Xiao Hua and the others. There were even a dozen that rushed towards Zhen Yi. Not to mention the light protecting Xiao Hua and the others. That was Zhen Yi's magic. If it was broken by the fire bats, how could Zhen Yi still be worthy of being called a golden core cultivator? And the dozen fire bats that rushed towards Zhen Yi caused Xiao Hua to be astonished. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.